Laredo, take us out.
Take her out.
All right. Take flight each and every Friday night. Join the fun and let's go OffWorld. Geek out with us live where the nerdiness will thrive. Buckle up and let's go OffWorld. Toys, comics, pop culture news, movies and so much more. Matthew, Jesse, Curtis, and Sean are your guides on this fun-filled tour. Take flight each and every Friday night. Join the fun and let's go OffWorld. Let's go OffWorld. Let's go OffWorld. Hey, hey, hey. Let's go OffWorld tonight.
Good evening, everyone. We have got a very special off week for you. We've got some special guests. We've got a cool topic we're going to discuss. So go ahead and get started. First with me in the co-pilot chair, Sean Scavarna. Sean, how you doing, sir?
I don't know if that means I'm good, but I'm going to say I'm good as well.
Okay, gotcha.
How are you, Curtis?
Next, we've got first of two special guests. We got Ryan Gonzalez. Ryan, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, man. I'm just happy to go off world with you guys.
Beautiful. What do you think about the music of Jeremy DeWitt?
I don't know if you saw me, but I was nodding my head the entire time. Dude, that fucking theme song gets me pumped, man.
Jeremy is way too talented for the rest of us. My wife is going to kill me, guys. He just is also lazy, which is the only problem. And the second of our special guests, we got Joe Gonzalez. Joe, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well. Just excited to be here. Heck yeah.
Beautiful. So start off, we do have a few people in the chat. I see Hedgehog. I see Amber out there. I also see Ryan and Joe. So
I like those guys.
A little slow start, but, we knew we were going up against the new Mr. Allen PowerCon song. So, I mean, you know, it's tough. It's tough when you got so much good content going on at the same time.
You're up against the Super Bowl,
Hedgehog says, I shave my head. That would make me fit in with the group, I guess, if I were to shave my head live.
I thought about that when I logged in. I'm like, oh wait, I'm not the Baldy tonight. This is nuts.
Yeah.
One of us.
All these.
a little out of the loop. All right. Well, let's start off with any pickups this week. We'll start off with you, Sean. You got anything to show off and talk about?
Dun, dun, dun.
Beautiful.
Great.
Yeah, I ordered these. I did not do the pre-order through the Horseman, unfortunately. I got mine through Empire Toys, and my first boxes came in yesterday. This Olek is the only one I've actually opened because I was probably 2 hours of me just looking at this figure, studying him, putting things together. How did I want to display him? And I think I'm going to probably take the rest of the week to get the rest of them open. And actually, this one, Vorga, who is my favorite.
She's a sleeper.
Yeah, and I loved her from the first time they introduced her. She's next on the list because Oleg, I thought, oh, he just looks great. And I spent 2 hours. Vorg is probably going to be a 3 to 4 hour figure then for me to just get in there and just take it all in.
Oh, yeah. I fully expect you to spend a lot of time exploring Vorga's body. So.
Well, I won't do it with the lips and all that. I know you're more the Braille guy than me.
Yeah.
I'm just
I feel all the details.
Sights and all that. It'll be great. But yeah, I got between her, I got the Sphexians, I've got Ziri, and then going off of what you love, Curtis, I have 3 Centuries on the way.
Woo! Nice.
Because those were other ones where it's like Vorga, the spacesuit Olek and the Sentries were the ones that I was like, oh, I really need my hands on those at least if I got any.
You forgot a digit for the century, though.
Yeah.
You
need,
can't
like,
only have 3. You have to have
add a
like
couple zeros
33.
there. Right.
I worked with the best I could using my Klarna. That's all I get. Klarna Skavarna, like I said. But yeah, I'm like 3 for now. And if I can grab a couple when I see the Horsemen out somewhere and get them for the 25 they were versus it being the 45, that's a lot more my speed right now. But
I think
yeah,
typically it's a
absolutely.
little bit higher. I think it's like 30 it shows.
30's still better.
Yeah.
Yeah, 30's fucking, but no, like I'm not ditching mythics, but I can see why you are already getting the way you're getting about this line, Curtis.
Yeah.
Just from one figure.
Already Hedgehog is getting on my case. I'm gonna have to boot him out of the chat.
He will pull.
I'm gonna have to break some more figures. I got 3 more Silverhawks right here next to me. So
no, you got to do it to the Sentries. At least you can pop those back together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See Brad Johnson popped in. We got Mike Ficklin in. Yep.
I just gotta say that I loved Jesse's reaction to when you did it. Oh no! And then he had his hands in his face, and
it makes the clip for sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, Sean, I just want to say that I am proud of you. Last time that you got a big bunch of toys in, you shot your whole load at once.
Oh yeah.
And then the next week you had nothing to show off.
Nothing.
So the fact that you're slow rolling this a little bit, I'm proud of you.
It takes me 2 or 3 tries until I get something right, and I tell you what, since we're live on YouTube, it's easier for me to have the accountability this time and go, okay, 1 per week.
Nice.
Do it that way.
All right, we'll go on to Joe. Joe, you got anything that you picked up this week that you'd want to show off?
I didn't bring it in, but I got my my Wolf King order. I don't want to get into your territory too much, Curtis, plug and Wolf King, but
I've had it.
Lynn was very kind, including extra 3D printed pieces. I got a Ziri because even though I already had 2, he said that there's a surprise that came with it. So I ordered one just to see what the surprise was, and it was a hand pack for Ziri. So I was happy to have those.
Wow.
No.
But yeah. So and that was fortunate too, because I opened my Ziri from my all in, and she came with 2 sets of trigger finger hands. So it was nice getting the hand pack because now I can put different, I put different hands on her, which that's a PSA with the Cosmics too. Warm up those wrists before you pop the hands out. I pulled 2 different hands apart and then had to put them back together, because I'm used to just popping them out, but I pulled the joints apart. So that's definitely warm up the wrists before you slide them hands out.
Yeah, it seems like the ankles and feet are a lot better than the old 2.0 figures, like as far as standing up and not being weak. But there's definitely been an issue with the wrist joint and some fragility there. So yeah, just be careful.
I felt like it was 100% my fault. I mean, I have quite the Legions collection to know that I need to warm them up before I start, popping things apart, the swap hands and stuff like that. It was just me, the excitement, like, oh, I want to put different hands on. And then I'm like, oh, look what I did. So, I still haven't, I've got lots of Cosmics here. I just haven't got to dig into them yet, but getting those heads from Wolf King, I'm not going to have free time for a while, but I'm looking forward to doing some Cosmic customs. I didn't really have any excitement to do that, but now that I got them in hand and got some of those 3D printed heads and parts, I've got a couple customs planned that I'm looking forward to doing. So
yeah, the sculpts on those are just so good. Like Sean was saying, you just got to take a moment and just kind of look at it, because there's so many details that it's really hard to see. I know we joke about, the photos don't do it justice and all this and that, but there's just so many details that you can't I think fully capture it in a photo,
I
especially
think
on
I
the
think
Legion builders where they're not as painted. But go ahead, Joe.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I looking at Ziri, because I've only opened Ziri and the Science Officer so far. Ziri might be the most photogenic figure that I've ever had, you know, in hand. It just, there's so many great poses that you can do, you know, like right now I have her on my shelf with that hollow projection on her forearm, looking at it, and then she's got her respirator down, you know, and I just picture her like being confused because her GPS is messed up or something like that, you know, or she's on a strange planet. Like I'm not a photographer at all. I want to take some pictures of this Zeri figure. Like, it is an incredible figure with the soft goods and everything. I'm particularly enjoying that one.
Yeah, and it's been a little bit since that wave was first announced, but I was surprised when it came in that I guess I just hadn't realized that she's the only one with soft goods in the whole wave. And that cape that she got it's amazing. Like, it's kind of got this like Western poncho kind of vibe. Like, you just so like putting her in there as like a gunslinger works really well. Yeah.
Well,
it's so
you know,
good.
I'm a miner, so in IRL, so a respirator and a poncho, man, that endears me to the figure right then. It's just like she's ready to go to work where I'm at, you know?
Nice.
So let's put her to work.
Beautiful.
But
well, what about you, Ryan? You got anything to show off for this week that you've gotten?
Unfortunately, I haven't gotten anything this week. The newest thing that I got was the Harker Customs cape for the 89 Batman. And I will tell you that it really elevates that figure, because I feel like the cape it came with really,
there were some problems.
Iffy.
People had issues, that's for sure. Yeah.
But
so the Harker custom one, does it? I know the like the way that Mezco came, there's like a ring. Does the Harker custom one have a ring that fits over it the same way, or how does that work?
So he made an opening and he just stitched around it. So once you pop the cowl off, it sits right on there. You pop the cowl on. You don't even have to mess with any clips or. It doesn't have to click into place.
And it holds well with that. Like, it doesn't move on you and stuff. That's cool.
It is beautiful.
Beautiful. And Hedgehog's talking you up, saying that you did a Batmobile repaint.
I wouldn't say it was a repaint. I just dulled the sheen a little bit, and that's about it.
This is one of the newer ones that just came out recently, like not the first batch, but the second batch.
I got the Flash movie one. I didn't get the 89
I know the first batch had like the gray canopy, and then the second batch, I think they darkened it up, and it was okay.
I had the gray one.
So did you have to paint that? Okay, gotcha.
Because I don't understand why they did it in two different colors. Like, I think you did the whole damn thing black.
Yeah, I think because that whole canopy piece. See, I didn't realize when I had ordered it that wasn't two different plastics. Like the windshield, I thought was a clear plastic, and then I figured the rest of the canopy was another one, like they were together. But it's all just that clear piece, and then they painted on the canopy part. So I think because it was a clear piece, when they went to paint it with the same paint as the rest of the Batmobile, it did something weird. But yeah, I've seen a lot of people repainting those, and it definitely makes a huge difference. So, for the price of that you get that, it's like, even repainting it, it's still way worth it, because that size vehicle normally would run you, a couple $100. It'd be like a crowdfunding thing. So yeah, I've got it up there with my Mezco Batman and my Mafex Batman and all this and that. And then I ended up ordering all those movie ones, waiting for those to come in. I'm excited for those too. I think I'll probably just keep that in the package though, because I've seen the package. Yeah. It like opens up and it has all 6 of the movie Batman and then the bat signal in there. So I may just keep that in the package. But
dude, thank God that sold out, because when you posted it, you're like, I had to. And I was like, no, I think Jesse said it. You really
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
And the more I looked at it, the more it kept sucking me in. And I was like, God, please just fucking sell out.
Yeah. Well, it was like, I just looked at it and I was like, where are you going to get all these different versions of the movie Batman in one spot? I mean, hell, you never see a Clooney or a Kilmer one for sure. And then, so yeah, and they looked good. Like I didn't look at any of them and say, oh, well, this one kind of looks shitty. Like they all looked pretty good. So,
And they had nipples. The ones that
yeah.
needed nipples had nipples. That's all
Yeah.
that mattered to me.
I mean, that was the selling point, really. Yeah. So as soon as I saw those nipples, I was like, I'm in. So, all right. Well, I did pick up a couple things this week. So I've got first, I picked up from Eugene Unick was selling a bunch of his collection, mostly like Marvel Legends and different stuff. So I picked up this Juggernaut from the Juggernaut Colossus 2-pack. I had previously had the Juggernaut from the Marvel Select line, which is a little bit bigger, a little bit more realistic, but I liked this version to fit with the X-Men that I've been getting that are more like the kind of the comic version. So that'll be replacing my other one, and I don't know what I'm going to do with that big hulking Juggernaut. I'll probably send it to somebody, or I don't know, maybe I'll make some giant Fuzzmonk custom out of it or something.
Jesse, are you here?
Exactly. Then I picked up my Beast, which I've been waiting for this. I've had this on pre-order from Big Bad Toy Store for, I don't know, about 6 months. And I've seen it like in stores. I've seen it in other places. And I just was like, oh, I'll just wait for my pre-order to come in. And they still don't even have it in stock. So I was just like, fuck it. I found one on eBay for the same price that I was paying on Big Bad Toy Store. And I just bought it off of eBay because I was tired of waiting on them. So I don't know what Big Bad Toy Store's deal is with that particular figure, but it's been on pre-order forever and doesn't seem like it's coming in. And then because we're going to talk about Death of Superman, representing Death and Return of Superman, and we've got all these great figures coming, especially from Mafex, and we just had the Doomsday Superman from McFarlane that just came out. And I'm sitting there looking at my display, and I had, Steel and the Superman, and then I've got, obviously we saw the Mafex Eradicator and Superboy are coming, and on the other side I just have Cyborg Superman on the bad side. So I needed something else, so I figured I'd pick up the McFarlane Mongo to go with Cyborg Superman, just to kind of finish out that little collection, so at least even it out a little bit, throw a little bit more bad on the bad side while I wait for those other figures to come out. So that is everything I've got this week. I did get some more Cosmics in. I got the rest of my Century order from the Horseman. I am waiting for some more from Len. I haven't got those yet, but I've got about half of the Centuries that I've ordered at this point. So yeah, it's time to start painting. So all right. Well, that was fun. So Death and Return of Superman. I'm excited about this. So just kind of rewind a little bit, put us in the right mindset. So basically 92 is when this started ramping up for the Death of Superman. I think it was like late 92 that they started introducing Doomsday, and I think it started with, you saw I think at the end of one of the comics you just saw the hand with the green glove, and it was just like punching a wall, and you didn't know what the hell that was. And then they started getting a little bit further and further, and right at the end of 92 is when we actually got the Death of Superman. And then we ended up getting Funeral for a Friend, and then the Reign of Superman, which reason we kind of brought this up, I'll pull this up first. Let me, hold on, stop sharing that and share this one. Okay. They announced that they have a special 30th anniversary special #1 coming in October, and it's a Return of Superman special. And this got me very excited, and we started talking about it in our OffWorld chat, and I kind of led to this discussion. So this, for me, this whole thing, like Death of Superman into the Return, we're going to actually pull up the individual covers for the different issues, and then talk about some of the toys that have come out recently. But just the whole thing, from the Death to the Return and the Funeral for a Friend, is one of the most memorable kind of story periods in comics that I can remember. And I just love the characters that came out of this. And it looks like, just some details on that, it looks like they got a couple different variant covers. There's going to be a foil variant as well. So like, looks like 3 different variant covers, 80-page special. So yeah, look for that in October at your local comic shops. So what do you guys, first of all, the 30th anniversary special, you guys picking it up? Is this something that you're excited for? What are your thoughts on this? We'll start, we'll just go down the list. So start with Sean. Sean, what do you think?
I feel old now because I didn't. It's one of those things where suddenly they're saying 30 years ago was when this was going on, and I'm like, I don't feel that old anymore. I haven't been buying comics like physically, but I might get it digitally and check it out. I see even the writers; they got everybody. The gang's all back for this one.
Yeah, they got Jurgens and I saw Brett Bregan was working on it. Yep. So
yeah, like Jurgens, Louise Simonson, Jerry Ordway, and Carl Cuss, all those guys. It's like, that's impressive that they got them all back for it. And I mean, yeah, it is one of those, like, when it happened, I was really in my X-Men fever phase, and Image Comics too was starting up. So like, I was huge into those. And then on the news 30 years ago, there was this thing about, DC Comics is saying that Superman is going to die. And I remember just kind of standing at the TV going, it's because I've been reading X-Men, isn't it? Like, it's my fault.
It's your
I'm
fault.
killing Superman. I'm killing him because I've been going to Marvel too much. Oh my God. And it honestly shook me, because I'm like, how can you kill him? Like, that was mind blowing. And like you said, the build up to this, what became Doomsday, it's like, holy shit, this is a whole different thing than even Darkseid or whatever. So, I mean, yeah, it's really hard for it not to stick with you after 30 years and just think, this is the first time a publicity stunt actually like stuck the landing. It's pretty crazy.
Well, and it's funny that you say that about it being your fault, because in reality it is. I mean, because I was doing some research on this before the show, and, basically leading up in that, kind of time frame before this kicked off in '92, DC was getting their butts kicked by, Marvel for sure. But then there were other comics that were taking up, part of the percentage as well. And I guess they only had about a 20% market share at that point, which is really low for, considering, one of the top 2, comics. And then on top of that, like there was, I'm sure you guys back in the day probably collected Wizard magazine, and you would, you'd see in there like which ones were the top selling comics at the time. And they would do like a top 10, and every one of them was a Marvel comic. There wasn't a single DC comic in there. And there were Marvel comics that weren't even like their top dogs, like they were beating out things like Batman and Superman. So because of that, because sales were low, because interest had shifted more towards Marvel and the more, I would say DC characters typically at that point were more, it was black and white. There were a lot of Boy Scouts in DC. There wasn't a lot of gray area. You didn't have a lot of the tortured hero kind of thing, whereas Marvel was a little bit more gritty. And so DC said, okay, what can we do to kind of make some news, do something different? And it was Ordway, who we just talked about a second ago, that like in all of their meetings just kept saying, let's just kill him. and like they would throw out all these other ideas, and they would argue about these other ideas, and then Ordway would just say, let's just kill him. And he just kept saying it until finally everybody else was just like, okay, well, what would that look like? And they decided to go that route. So so it's funny you say that, because I think in a way, just based on our buying habits at that time, we all kind of killed Superman. But from that, something awesome came from that. But yeah, go ahead, Sean.
It's true, but like I had said before we started the show, like I was actually going in and cribbing from Comixology and reading it again, and I'm like, there is something that's still so stilted about the way DC was in the 90s versus how Marvel made it feel cool. You felt like I mean, you had the freaking New Warriors probably in the top 10 back then, because they knew how to do teens. They knew how to do writing where it made you identified with a character in one way or another. And I'll say it. I mean, it is hard. Superman is an aspirational idea. Superman is not one where you can, like, I could actually watch Superman and Lois and go, I get that. I'm a dad. I'm dealing with a lot of these issues. I get that, but I don't know what it's like to go up against Doomsday, So it's like the art and the writing, even though they're great, I'm reading through it and I'm like, there is a reason Marvel was the king back then, and I'm not trying to be. Like Jog Bogdanovich, he was one that I was like, he's way stylized, but he ended up becoming one of my favorite Superman artists through that period. He did the Steel issues later on, like when Steel came up and stuff. But it's like there was this almost like DC had their way of doing it. It worked, but it was still like removed from what was cool or reality. They didn't have like a Todd McFarlane in their stable then. They didn't have a Jim Lee or a Rob Liefeld. They had a lot of good storytellers. Yeah. But some of their storytellers, their storytelling was still like almost 80s feeling compared to 90s where they needed to be at that era.
Yeah, Mike makes a good point here. I want to pull up real quick, and then we'll get to Ryan. Says they finally decided to kill him because they wanted Clark to marry Lois in the comics. However, the writers on Lois and Clark asked them to hold off until they did it on the show, that is correct. So, basically they're, as they're getting their butts kicked in early 92, they say, hey, we need some great idea. And the idea that they had was, we're going to marry, Lois and Clark. We're going to have them get married. And they were basically told, hey, that's what they want to do in the TV show, and we want to wait so that we can time it with them. So we need something else big for the end of the year to kind of close out the year and start next year that's not that. And so that kind of led into the death of Superman. So yeah, that's absolutely correct. So Ryan, your thoughts on the return episode, the issue, the 30th anniversary, as well as just your thoughts on Death and Return of Superman in general.
So I will say that I am not the reason that Superman died like you guys are, because I didn't start collecting comics until way later. But I'm excited for the 30th anniversary. I will be picking that up. Also, I feel like the death of Superman, like the issue where it was just a knockdown, drag out, just a old fashioned slugfest. And I don't think they really did that before that, because Superman did a lot of like battling with like Lex Luthor and shit like that. So it was just kind of just playing like a game of strategy where it's just him just throwing haymakers at this monster essentially. I will say I did appreciate the hell out of that. And I don't know, it brought a tear to my eye because you knew where it was going, because he's just getting his ass handed to him. It was the grit that they needed, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
For the time, at least.
The way that I looked at it with the Doomsday fight is that, and I think they may have even mentioned this somewhere along the way in that, but like Superman's whole life, he had been holding back. Like when he, did anything like in school, in high school, he had to be careful not to hurt anybody. When he's fighting like normal criminals and stuff, like he's basically pulling his punches constantly. Because if he just goes full bore, he's going to kill somebody. His Doomsday fight to me felt like the only time that he didn't hold back. Like he couldn't. He had to give it his all in order to take Doomsday out. And so just seeing Superman, who feels like this, like he can do anything, to be pushed to his absolute limit was pretty awesome. Even regardless of him dying, just the fact that he had to give his all for the first time really is pretty awesome.
And there's the line in that led up to the death of Superman when he's just laying it on Doomsday. I think it was, I don't remember if it was a thought bubble or if he said it out loud. He's like, my hands are actually starting to hurt because of how he's just teeing off on him.
Mm-hmm.
I did like the fact that he was kind of evolving as that fight went. Doomsday was evolving as that fight went on, and you didn't actually realize what was happening until it was too late.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the fact that they came up with this, and this is something that we'll talk about as we go through this whole Death and Return, because they brought out some really amazing characters that I love still today, that I'm sure you guys do too. And Doomsday is definitely the first one of them that we'll talk about. But obviously, as we get into Reign of Superman, we'll talk about those guys as well. But they basically just created this villain from scratch and give him a backstory and give him this persona and this ability to get better as he goes on. So as he gets beat or as he gets taken out or as he faces any sort of adversity, he adapts to it and gets better. So yeah, like as you build up towards that final fight between the two of them in issue 75, like it is at that point, like Doomsday is at his best and it's going to take everything to stop him. So yeah, cool. Joe, what about your thoughts on the anniversary issue and just the Death and Return to Superman as a whole?
Well, I haven't bought a comic book since the late 90s, so I probably won't pick it up, but I might check it out online, like Sean said. I love the storytelling with the Doomsday storyline. They put such a great slow burn on it. Mm-hmm. Like at no point I felt like they rushed the story. It wasn't just the fight between Doomsday and Superman. It was the fact that Doomsday beat everyone else first. Mm-hmm. Like I remember
he ran the gauntlet.
Being really upset. Yeah. I remember being really upset. He slammed Blue Beetle's head in a door, right? Until he was hospitalized. I thought they were killing Blue Beetle then. And he might have died. I can't even remember for sure. It's been so long now. But I mean, Doomsday beat everybody with one hand tied behind his back. Like his hand was, one arm was still strapped behind his back while he was beating the Justice League and every other hero that they threw against him. So
bitch slap guy.
I thought that was, that was, the storytelling of, by the time Superman shows up, you're like, I remember reading it and going, when is Superman going to get here? They need Superman. And that's not a type of storytelling that they were doing a lot of, you know what I mean? Like I collected Justice League in the 80s a lot, and Superman was part of the team, but he was the guy that when you wanted tension, he just happened to not be there at the time, because when Superman showed up, the fight was pretty much over.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like Voltron.
So that buildup. Right. So it was that great buildup. I love that tension of all those different episodes of like some of my favorite heroes just getting their faces kicked in by this dude we don't know who he is, and he's got one arm strapped behind his back. And then Superman shows up, and I remember him doing the puff out his chest, nobody moves me if I don't want to be moved. Doomsday hits him, he doesn't move. Then he does that spin kick, and Superman goes flying. And I was just like, holy moly, this is serious. And I think the way they did it made the build up to the fight, where when Superman does die at the end of it, it meant something. It wasn't just a random thing. It wasn't, Joe Cool with a kryptonite bullet. You know what I mean? They built up to it in such a way that if you collected it through the whole thing, Superman's death meant something, and you didn't have to be a regular collector of Superman comics or anything for it to have an impact on you. Like, just reading the story would make you feel like Superman needed to give everything that he had, his life, to stop this monster. And I thought it was incredible storytelling. And then
I think, to your point there, like, not only was this guy imposing and beating them with one arm tied behind his back and stuff, but he wasn't talking. Like, it's not like most villains, like you get to hear, like what their plan is or what's going on in their head. Like, this guy's just a absolute killing machine, and he is just destroying stuff, which makes it, in my opinion, even more terrifying, because you have no idea what this guy's motivation is. He's just a wrecking ball that's not stopping.
That's go ahead, Jeff. Oh, I was just gonna say I'll use a pro wrestling reference. Like when you introduce a monster heel, you want this guy to come in, not say much, and just beat the crud out of everybody, to establish that he's a serious threat for the babyface character to overcome. I felt like they took it right out of a pro wrestling playbook.
I can see that.
For the Superman storyline, and it works. It works, though. You need the hero to overcome, but the monster that he's fighting has to be established as a genuine threat. Otherwise, if Superman's beating a villain that he's beat 10 times before, because it's comic books, you recycle villains over and over again. Batman knocking out the Joker doesn't have the same impact that it used to, since we've seen him do it 100,000 times. So that's what really I felt like made that special.
Yeah, I think you nailed something, because like Sean was talking about earlier, I was reading Superman comics this whole time. It's not like I had ever stopped. At this point, there was, the 4 different series. You had Action Comics, you had Adventures of Superman, Man of Steel, and Superman. And they were, doing to where the stories mostly were rolling from one week to the next. There were some one-offs, but for the most part, it was rolling from one series into the other. And so I was collecting those the whole time. And then I hear on the news that Superman's going to die. And, like you're saying, it would have been easy for them to, write some storyline where, Lex Luthor comes up with some sort of, kryptonite powered missile or something, like do something to take him out. But instead they create this unstoppable force, and, then they bring everybody else in to fight him first, like, so that he does have to run that gauntlet. And it's kind of like, we've made fun of a few of the Marvel movies in the past, because everything's like the world's ending, the universe is ending, but these other heroes don't show up. So like you have the Eternals movie and all this stuff is going on, and this thing's coming up from the top of the earth and stuff, but where are the Avengers? Where is this and that? Like none of the other heroes show up. This is an instance where everybody shows up. So it's like the one big bad and everybody comes, and he whoops them all. He whoops every single one of them. And so then it's down to, it gets down to just him and Superman, and it's going to be one or the other. And it turns out to be both, basically, So Sean, looked like you had something to throw in there.
Like the way that the story, like I said, I reread it quick before we went on. Like, I like that it starts out where Superman's doing a talk show, and he's literally sitting there, and it's one of these things where it's broadcast. So all of these high schoolers are watching this interview with him and kind of getting an idea of who this hero is and why he matters and all. So it's like they were preparing you. Like, remember why you love him. here's all the things he'll say, and then it goes into everything else. And I even
let me stop you. Let me stop you right there, because at the same time, the writers are also telling us that they're telling us why we have taken, as readers, have taken Superman for granted, and we're now buying all these gritty Marvel and Image comics. When, you know, what would this world be like without Superman? Well, we're going to show you. Like, so so what they're doing with those kids is also what they're telling us readers. But go ahead, because I think that's important to note there.
No, I completely agree. And there's this one kid, a teenager. He's home from they got out early or whatever. So he comes in and he's giving his mom shit, and he's like, you know, why don't you ever have soda in this place? No wonder Dad divorced you. You can't do anything right. And it's like, man, that kid deserved a freaking punch in the face as far as I was concerned, reading dialogue there. And then all of a sudden, all hell's breaking loose. Ice comes flying through their house, and they're like, what is happening? And then there's Doomsday on their lawn picking up their car and all this stuff. And I love that he is a Guy Gardner guy. He's flat out like, Guy Gardner's the greatest ever, and he keeps on talking about that. But then at the very end, there's fire all over the place. The house is torched. He can't find his mom and his baby sister and all that, and he's just yelling for Superman. And I'm like, there you go. And then what I love on top of that is the fact that it's just that whole thing of like, Superman typically would go, I gotta help him. But what I love is they wrote it where he flat out is saying, I cannot lose Doomsday. Because if I let him go, I don't know how many other hundreds of people or thousands of people are going to die before I can get back to him again. And I was like, this is freaking ramping up the drama so hard. And they even put that into another comic. Like, that was like the cliffhanger of that one. Then it goes to the next comic, and the kid's still not being rescued. The mom's still in the fire. And I'm like, freaking heck, man, this is nuts. Like, I loved how they did that. And I love that it did, you know, there was like Superman's flat out like, okay, I got to figure out a way of dealing with Doomsday, but I got to save that kid and his parent and his mom at the same time. And it's like, that kind of stuff was like, okay, you're seeing Superman out of his element, and you're seeing him literally in like it's a race against time. If I don't do this now, how many other people are going to die? But at the same time, there's still one person that still needs me, and I can hear him screaming for me, and I got to do something. I'm like, this is great. Like, this is the kind of storytelling. It's like that ending of Superman the movie. You got one missile going one way, the other going the other way. He can't be in two places at the same time. It works. It's effective in that way.
Yeah. So I just want to pull up real quick. Like, so these are the actual like issues that led into it. So, you know, this is towards the end of 92, and then it goes, you know, the beginning of 93, you get the funeral for a friend, and then obviously we get Reign of Superman as he comes back. So I just want to kind of pull up some of these and just take a look here. So we start off with this one here. This is, you know, kind of our first real glimpse at Doomsday, other than, you know, I think the issue before this, we had just seeing his hand punching against the wall, but this is him coming out of the ground. So you see Doomsday for the first time in the green suit, all these wires attached, one arm tied behind his back. What is your initial thoughts seeing this? We'll start at the bottom. Brian, what do you got?
I didn't know what the hell to expect, because he's in a green suit tied up with wires, and he has goggles on. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he's a hulking specimen, but I didn't know it was going to be as big as it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that cover.
Yeah. I love all the art on all the different covers that we're going to see. But yeah, this, and then, you know, obviously we'll talk when we get to the Reign of Superman ones, but those 4 issues that came out with the Superman logo, and then you open it up and so good. But anyway, Joe, first thoughts when you saw this?
Just anticipation. Like, I really wanted to see, like you guys said, they kind of, well, not kind of, they told us what was happening. So
right, we knew that this is going to end in his death, because it was very highly publicized on the news. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And reading Superman comics during the time, my expectations were not high, you know, for it to be a good story. And So seeing this and it's like, oh, a new villain, to bring in.
Yeah.
I was really curious to see where it went from here.
Sean?
I couldn't make heads or tails other than, okay, here's something that's literally breaking his own logo, Superman's logo, and it's like the implication of the foreshadowing of what's about to happen. But it's enough to let you go, okay, this is like a force of nature. But I also was like, Marvel would have had this guy with like pauldrons and like all these, like all sorts of crazy stuff. And it's such a simple design in all reality that compared to what was going on in the 90s, that it was more impressive. He was breaking the logo for me than just seeing him in general until later. And then you're like, holy crap, what the hell is he?
Yeah, it's a good point, because I didn't even really pick up on that when I first saw this. I mean, obviously you've got like the top part here is crooked. This is like everything is crooked on the screen, like not just the logo, but it's like it's almost like he broke the whole front of the comic. And so that's a good point, because I didn't even really catch that part. I'm just focused on the actual character and going, who the fuck is this guy? Like, who is this? Who's this giant monstrosity like coming out of the ground? What is this? Who, because I felt like there was going to be some sort of reveal underneath this costume, like that mask was going to come off or something, and we're going to be like, oh, it's some villain that we've seen before. And obviously it turned out it wasn't. So I was just, to me, it was just more kind of a, who is this? But yeah. Okay. And then we go into, this now starts going into the Justice League. So we see, Blue Beetle, Guy Gardner, Booster Gold, Mr. Terrific, is that right? And then I don't know who that is.
Fire.
Is that who it is? Gotcha.
Yeah.
So they're all fighting him off. Now you start seeing some of the Doomsday, like his arm coming out. You can see him start breaking free from the costume. Then
I think that the one character, I think he was part of like Icon with that.
Blood.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's it? Not Blood Rain. Blood Wind. That's what it was.
So Superman, this is Superman 74. This is the last Superman named one before the death of Superman, but then we still have the other four in between, or the other three in between. But this is where Superman actually shows up to face Doomsday for the first time in here. And this is kind of that point where Joe was saying, like, this is typically when it's over. Superman showed up. You've already got the rest of the Justice League there. Like, this is where it's going to end. And, obviously that wasn't where it ended. Then you had Action Comics. And this is kind of Superman versus Doomsday kind of, solo fight here. Another great scene, great shot with just, Superman doing what he can to try to take out Doomsday.
I don't know. That's kind of an odd attack. He's like, I'll hit him with the back of my head.
Yeah.
I never thought about that, when I was looking at the original comics, but seeing it now as an adult, I'm like, that's not a place to hit somebody with the back of your dome.
Yeah. Here's a good one. Like, this is just the, Joe was talking about, like, coming out of like a wrestling storyline. This is that straight up kind of grapple test of strength kind of thing. And they're just facing off 1v1. You can start seeing the torn parts of Superman's cape. Obviously Doomsday's now, getting pretty much fully out of that costume. And it's definitely going down. And then scroll back up. Then you've got Man of Steel 19. So, all right, this is the last one before the death of. At this point, what are your thoughts? Seeing this cover, seeing what you've seen so far, we've got one issue left before the death. any thoughts on this? I'll let anybody start that wants to talk.
I thought it was a powerful cover. I mean, like you finally you get the full on. Here's this thing he has to fight, and like you can just see you can't reason with this. You can't. There's nothing that's going to remotely affect this thing other than it just wants to keep killing and keep moving and kill and kill. And that expression on Superman's face is badass because it's like you don't get to see him that way often. And
Desperation.
It's desperate, but it's also like digging deep at the same time. It's like if Superman didn't have his own theme song, thank you, John Williams, it would be the Rocky theme song here probably, because it's got that like go the distance kind of a vibe during a literal brutal slugfest bloodbath.
Yeah, I think for me, like seeing this, finally, seeing the full Doomsday face and the, just like the craziness with the dark skin color and then the bones and you have no idea like what race this thing is, like what species, where it came from. You don't know its motivation. Like it just keeps coming. And, it's very much like, Michael Myers or Jason from Friday the 13th or whatever, like no matter what you do, this thing just keeps coming and it's just going to try to kill you. And there, like you said, there's no reasoning with it. There's no understanding its motivation. There's no talking it down. And there's, this is kind of where we're getting to the point where you realize there's also no capturing this thing. Like nothing's going to be able to hold this. So it's really kill or be killed at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And then we finally get to issue 75, which I clicked on the wrong one. And we get the black bag with the bleeding Superman logo on the front. Probably one of the most iconic images in comics. You see this with the bloody Superman logo, a logo that for years has represented, what it means to be, good and pure and just a symbol of hope. And now it's just dripping with blood. Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts when you see this? We'll start with Sean.
It's that was again it's my fault, and then seeing that was just like it's my fault. Like there's no way around this. I was 13 or I was probably 14 when this came out, and I was just like that damn teenager in that book. I mean, it's like I love Superman, and there's always that like thread of loving Superman growing up, but there is that X-Men are cooler phase, and this is cooler, Image is cooler, Spawn is cooler, whatever, and then like it's literally like you're finding out that your dad that you're estranged from now is dead, and you're like, well, that's a person I didn't expect to pass away or something. It's really messed up, and like you said, it's an iconic as hell cover. It's an iconic as hell icon, really.
Yeah. Joe?
So I had been collecting I collected X-Men comics in the 80s. So I didn't really believe that Superman was going to stay dead. That thought never crossed my mind. But the marketing of this was genius. It came with the black armband.
Yep.
And I grew up in a really small town, and like the day after this issue came out, there was like 30 kids wearing a black armband to school.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. And in a small town, that's a lot of kids, so it's like it definitely had that impact that, they just did everything right up to this point. It just, it was just real so solidly put together. Everybody wanted a poster of this, like Curtis with the t-shirt, like it was just, this was marketing genius. They put this together so well. And the comic was really good. That Lois holding Superman with his cape on this blowing in the wind on the stick behind her, like that's an iconic image to me. Now, it was just put together really well at this point. I was just curious to see like where the heck are they going to go with this now?
Yeah.
To piggyback on what you're saying about where are they going to go, or is he going to stay dead? It was funny because the same news report that announced this, the very last lines, I still remember this too, was that reporter saying DC Comics honestly does not know what death means to a Kryptonian. And the minute they said that, I'm like, that's your back door right there. You at least you have that glimmer of hope. He's not gone. But then there's that feeling of, but what are they going to do next? Because this was so out of depth of what they were doing for the character that it's like they could go anywhere they wanted after this point, and they did, and still go in a direction that you might not have expected if they wanted, like bring them back. Obviously, they did the Reign of Superman, but even what if the real Superman came back? And yes, he was electric after a while, but it's like, what if he wasn't quite the same that we knew him as anyway? Even, and I was always amazed by that.
Yeah. Ryan, you see this? What are your thoughts?
You knew that he was going to die in this issue, but I agree with Joe, man, that the image of her holding him, and honestly, those last couple of panels, her just watching and knowing there is nothing that she can do. But and I feel like I missed out because I didn't read this till years later. It didn't really have the same impact it had on me as it did for you guys who were there and experienced this the first time.
Gotcha.
But you guys put it beautifully.
Yeah, but it's so effective for you at least.
Yeah,
so that's good. That's showing the storytelling.
You to go back and read it and still enjoy it. Yeah,
yeah.
So for me, I was a little, I was not, very skeptical at this point. I was very naive. I had mostly read DC Comics, and I took people at their word. Like if they say they can't put out a figure with vac metal, I believe that it's never going to come out with vac metal, and so I just buy the other shitty version, like thinking that it's not going to happen. Like I don't have that in me to go, yeah, they say they're not going to do this, but they're going to do it. So when they tell me they're killing Superman, I think this is the end of fucking Superman. Like this is the end. This is it. And so I am fully prepared going into this to see his final battle. And there's something really magical about that, to see, his whole life and everything culminate in this one fight where he's saving the world, even though that it means giving up his life for it. But then there's also this unknown of what happens after that. Like what does a world without Superman then look like? And, how do we move forward from this? So that's all, when I see this, it's excitement and nervousness and sadness, and, all mixed together when I see this.
One quick thing I also thought of too is Curtis, you and I have talked about Transformers the movie a few times. And the one thing about that movie that affected me as a kid was, yes, Optimus died, and there was that, well, now what? I wasn't crying about it in the theater. I was just more like, well, now what do they do? And that movie was so packed with things that it didn't give you the chance to take a breath and actually consider what is going to happen very often. This did the opposite approach, and reading it had me just like, it's like you're literally grieving with these other characters, and you're like, I can't believe he's going. What are they going to do? What if this? And it's like I got to experience it on two different levels as a kid. I had the grief of Optimus Prime, and then the grief a couple years later of Superman. And on both parts, it's like I had different stages I was handling because these father figures and these heroes were gone, and that vacuum that was left behind.
Yeah, and you make a great point there because I just went back and watched the Transformers movie this past week because I'd given you guys a lot of shit about it, and
Yep.
and I will say that rewatching it as an adult, it definitely is a lot better than I remember it being overall.
Okay.
But and I did enjoy it. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Mhm.
But the part that I don't like is in my opinion, the unnecessary death of Optimus, because it's basically a death where he gets distracted by Hot Rod and it causes him to die. Right? It's not like he lost a fight. It's not like he battled to the end and died. It's because of this other thing that's introduced into the fight that causes it, and it just feels cheap to me. So, but with this, like, Superman didn't lose this fight, and it wasn't some freak thing that happened that killed him. He gave everything that he had until the bitter end, and the last bit took both of them out. And I think that's an amazing way for them to have ended this. Was that it wasn't that Superman lost to Doomsday and then somehow the other heroes had to come in and stop Doomsday or whatever. It's not like he lost, and it's not like some freak thing happened that killed him. Like, it was literally it was a battle to the absolute end. It was everything out of him to finish Doomsday off.
Yeah, they didn't cheapen it in any way.
No, it didn't feel cheap at all. So I loved, like, seeing this at first. Like I said, there was all those emotions, but then reading the comic, I was like, if this is the last we ever see of Superman, because at the time I'm thinking that it probably is going to be the last we see of Superman, unless they do something down the road where they redo the timeline and whatever, which DC's done 15,000 times since then. But I assumed that was going to be the last that we saw of this version of Superman. And if it is, I felt like that was a very fitting end, in my opinion. So then let me just check the comments. We got Hedgehog says, "Oh man, I love the Transformers movie as a kid. For the first time ever, there were real stakes." Yeah, I mean, the fact that they were killing on there, I have no problem with. It did feel like there were real stakes. I just wish some of them weren't. Some of the deaths just felt super cheap to me. Like, I'm a huge Starscream fan too, and like the way that they killed Starscream was just very.
That was very hurtful as a kid, to have the deaths of some of my favorite characters like Brawn and Ironhide. Oh my gosh! And then, but it was all about selling toys. They wanted to kill off the old ones because they wanted you to buy the new ones that were coming out. So,
but it's one thing to die in a battle to the end. It's another thing to, like for Starscream to just get shot by Galvatron and he just disintegrates. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, so it's like, so I've enjoyed this character this whole time, and that's all it takes is one blast and he's gone.
If he's not selling toys, that's what you get.
There you go. So then from the death of Superman, we start going into Funeral for a Friend. And I'm not going to click on every single one of these, but I will pull up a couple. But, basically we go into this area where we're starting to mourn the death of Superman. We're starting to understand what he meant to the world and what it's going to be like without him. So as we start going into this post-death of Superman phase, like, what are your thoughts and feelings as you started to go through this part of it? We'll start at the bottom. We'll start with Ryan.
So this is where I get a little bit rusty. Funeral for a Friend is kind of hazy to me. So if you guys want
to
pick it up.
That's cool. Joe, we start going through Funeral for a Friend. Obviously they're talking about it. They actually arrange the funeral. There's a big giant group of people that line up for it. They do the statue for him in Metropolis, which becomes a very iconic thing, to where they even kind of reference that in some movies later on and stuff, with a statue of Superman. So as they start going through Funeral for a Friend and you're realizing this is going to be a world without him, what are your thoughts?
So I'm with Ryan on this one. I don't remember much, but that's because Funeral for a Friend was a giant snore fest.
It was
just really,
it was very
it just really
melancholy.
didn't keep it. It's like, hey, everybody's sad that Superman died for like 20 issues.
Yep.
It just didn't, nothing really stuck with me, on this, because following the death of Superman with just every superhero is sad for a really long time. I don't remember much.
Look at this cover though. That's
I
just.
feel like they could have covered Funeral for a Friend in 2 issues.
Yep.
They
with you.
probably
They could have just did
probably
an issue.
could, but I don't think they wanted to get into Reign of Superman and start, bringing that on right afterwards. Like that, I think they needed something to fill that gap. And you could have just not had these issues. I guess you could have just went without Superman for a few months. But I thought this was a way to fill that gap and truly appreciate what we've lost. But Sean, I know you were kind of talking about that with like the kids in the school and stuff, and what are your thoughts as you went through this with the Funeral for a Friend?
I actually, I mean, I can see why it would be a snore fest to some, but I actually liked seeing the different points of view, because like they had Bibbo, who he was the guy that ran the bar in Metropolis or whatever, and he was there like, why he saved my life how many times, why couldn't it have been me instead of him this time, that sort of a thing. And I did like that they had Lois reaching out to the Kents and them being like, we can't even be there, they won't let us in, we're just these farmers from Smallville, and that's our son. And that's like,
Right.
I mean, talk about it hitting you right in where you live, because there's an element of like the dual identity really does, like, yes, to the world he's Superman, but to the Kents he's Clark, and
Right.
same as Lois. So them playing that up, I think, actually really was a great way of giving you that emotion that, it's like, yeah, Superman died, but there's also a man that died too. It wasn't just Superman. And then they had the Adventures of Superman issue where Jonathan, he has the heart attack, and he's there, and it's like he's basically between our world and the afterlife, and he finds Clark, and the two of them kind of relive things together, if I remember right. It's like that was an interesting issue in and of itself, because then it's like right after that, that's when all of a sudden, hey, by the way, Superman's flying by the window, and it's like Jonathan's thinking that he had something to do with it, and it's like, no, this is a whole nother bag of worms we're about to open up by the Reign of Superman story we're about to get into.
Yeah, and they also in there started to tease that maybe something else was going on with Superman, because there was the one issue where you find out that there's nothing in his tomb, like the body is missing, and you don't know where the body went. And then there's some storylines that kind of roll into that from the Reign of Superman. So yeah, I think they were building onto that, kind of the mourning aspect, which obviously, reading 20 episodes of people being sad is not the most interesting thing.
Just as a caveat to that, I probably would have enjoyed this story, that Funeral for a Friend, way more as an adult. Teenage Joe was like, I don't like novellas, so
yeah.
Let's move on.
So this is a total of 10 issues. They were weekly, so you're talking 2.5 months basically of mourning, and then starting to build up to that Reign of Superman. So
the funny thing about Funeral for a Friend, I'll just say, in my own household, then my mom was buying those. I wasn't buying them, but I was getting that. Like every time we went to the shop, she would pick it up because she would read it as a Superman fan from her childhood, watching George Reeves on TV. For her, this was like her mourning period, because it's like in her lifetime, she saw Superman die twice because George Reeves commits suicide. And now this, and it's like, you know, I respected the fact my mom was reading Superman again, and she was buying them specifically because she couldn't believe they did it either.
Yep. So then we start getting into Reign of Superman.
Here we go.
And like, you know, you get the cover and it's just a Superman logo, not sure what's going on, and then you flip the cover, which I don't think it's going to show us. Yeah, it doesn't show us, but basically you flip the cover and you've got, you know, the other Superman in there. So it's got let me see if I can pull that up real quick. And open image in new tab. There we go.
See, Jonathan made a point. We probably should have given a spoiler alert before we started this, huh?
Hey, if you joined a show that says Death and Return of Superman and you didn't expect that we're going to talk about the Death and Return of Superman, I don't know what to tell you.
30 years, it's okay.
Let's see. Here we go.
Yeah, we didn't call them spoilers back then.
Yeah, we just talked through it, and then people get pissed at us.
So you basically on the next few issues of Superman, you got these. You know, we just saw that Action Comics where it, you know, just said Action Comics, and then it had the Superman logo, and you flipped it. It was a cutout, and all you saw was the Superman logo, but that part was cut out. You flip the page, and it's the Eradicator. And then you had one with Superboy, and you had one with the Cyborg Superman, and you had one with Steel. So because these are in alternating comics, you basically got these 4 weeks in a row. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, which I don't know the order. We'll check that out in a second. But and each one kind of went through these, we'll call them versions of Superman. And in my mind at the time, because I still don't know that the real Superman's coming back, it's almost like this is an audition for who is going to be the main hero of this universe going forward. Like, which one of these guys is going to take over and be the big dog? So, you know, we talked before about the introduction of Doomsday and how great that character was. And, you know, to this day, it's just an important character in the DC universe. These four, I feel like, as well, were just like great introductions to these characters that, you know, we had seen a Superboy comic before. We had seen a version of the Eradicator in earlier comics of Superman, but not this version that we see here. We had not seen the Cyborg version of Superman or Steel at this point. So an introduction to these characters, as you go through these 4 issues and learn about these 4 Supermen, you know, obviously we know later on kind of where the story goes, but what are your initial thoughts as you see each of these Superman? Who are you rooting for? Who did you think? Did you think any of these were? Because at the time, these guys, for the most part, are all pretty much claiming to be Superman. So was there one of these that you thought really was Superman, or that you were rooting to be the next Superman? What are your thoughts? We'll start with Sean.
So I don't know why knee-jerk reaction when they first started coming out was Cyborg Superman. And I don't I don't know why he was the one, because I mean, the Eradicator one looks pretty much like him, except he's got the glaucoma sunglasses on. It's like, okay, you know, like that might work. It looks like Superman, but for some reason, the Cyborg one visually was interesting to look at, and I was really taken by that design. And then Steel and Superboy just kind of faded to the background the most for me, but the ironic part is, as this storyline went on, those two became my absolute favorites, and the other two faded to the background. So go figure.
Okay. Joe?
Yeah. So John totally beat me to the punch on making fun of Eradicator's glasses, but
Sorry.
Is that but is that not just the most 90s costume that ever 90s? I mean,
I love it.
Yeah.
In
He didn't
92,
have
I loved
pouches
it.
though.
But he wasn't a Liefeld character, so that's okay.
Well, I'll give you that. I'll give you
Right.
that. And no spikes
but
either. That was the other thing.
Right. Visually, I liked Eradicator's costume the best, which is ironic because now as an adult, I don't like it at all because it's just so stereotypically 90s. I mean, the giant sunglasses, it's like street, California Highway Patrol Superman or something. I don't know what they were going for with that.
He wasn't too much chip.
Right. But for me, reading the issues, John Henry Irons being Steel and then Superboy, both of those were written very, very well. They were immediately, story-wise, more interesting characters than the other two, just because they were so well written, in my opinion. I don't remember much about the Cyborg Superman. I'm not sure why. Visually, he looks amazing. He's another great, 90s design, This is Terminator Superman, but I just don't remember thinking or what I thought about him then. But definitely Steel and Superboy jumped out to me just because I fell in love with the writing on those comics right off the bat.
Yeah.
Brian?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with them. Steel is my absolute favorite, and I love his backstory. I guess I'll talk about that when we get into it. But as soon as I saw Cyborg Superman, I said, "This guy's up to no good," just because of his face. See, as soon as I saw him, I said he's gonna be a bad guy, and I just thought Eradicator, like his dialogue. I understand he was supposed to be kind of cold, but I didn't like the way he was written and how he talked. He was just so monotone about everything. I mean,
Yep. He's very Kryptonian.
Yeah, I feel like the androids that were in the fortress had more personality than this guy. if I can be honest. And Superboy, I loved him because I guess when I read it, I felt like he was closer to my age. So I was like, oh, it's a kid Kryptonian just doing the damn thing.
Yep. So when I'm going through this, I feel like, okay, Steel, you get to see some of his backstory. You obviously realize that's not Superman, but could he be the next Superman? Who knows? Superboy comes out basically as a clone of Superman, which you find out later that he's actually cloned from genetic material of Superman and Lex Luthor combined. But that doesn't come out till later. But, like Sean and I have discussed many a times on here that, what makes Superman isn't just his genetic material. It's all that stuff with how he was raised and his parents and living in Kansas and, how they built up being a good heart. And the fact that Superboy doesn't have that, he does come across as cocky and arrogant and he has a personality that you would not expect from Superman. So it's one of those where even early on, before you know that he's got some Lex Luthor genes in him, you kind of realize like this isn't really Superman. And he may grow up to be a Superman, but right now he's very arrogant and cocky and has some growing up to do.
He's a horn dog.
Yeah. The other two I was really on the fence with. I didn't know if, first of all, the Eradicator suit, I absolutely love it. I think it's one of my favorite costumes in comics ever. I love the glaucoma glasses, you guys called them. I thought those were amazing. I love the shield
to the cape.
Yeah, the black and the blue outline on the suit, and then the cape that goes right down to the shield. Just love that whole look. But for me initially, and I know he's got an evil look to him of the Cyborg, but I really thought that could be Superman. Like the way that they wrote that, and he talks to Lois and he knows certain things that only Superman would know, and like he is doing things that are Superman like, that are very, truth, justice, American way, like even kind of warms himself up to the president and to the government, and like he becomes kind of the front runner for Superman by saying that he's, basically Superman he's like a RoboCop version of Superman. Like they took what was left from his body after the fight and combined it with these robotics, and that's what's there. At least that's what he's telling people, is that he is the leftover Superman combined with cybernetic parts. So I really truly believed at one point that this could be Superman. Now, obviously, as the story goes on and you realize that he has, nefarious intentions and all this and that, you realize that that's not really the real Superman. But I love the way that they set this up. I love the way that, like, those comics, when you get them, all you see on the front cover is that Superman logo. And it's not till you open it up and see the character inside and you get to learn about each of these four. And then, as the story progresses, because like I said, they were continuing the story from Superman to Action Comics to Adventures of Superman to Man of Steel. Like the storyline progressed in each, but each one kind of focused on one of these for the most part. So I'll go back to, let me remove this, and we'll go back to share screen. Did I close it? Oh, no, it's right here. Okay. So, this is Action Comics, and this is the Eradicator version. Last Son of Krypton is back, and you go through that, and it kind of talks about, that version of Superman. Then you go into Man of Steel, which obviously is going to be your Steel version, which I don't know why these ads are getting in my way. Which this is not showing that is the other version of the cover, but basically where you've got Steel on there. And then you kind of go through each of those other four. Sorry, computer is not working with me. There we go. That's the Cyborg Superman. And then the last one would be the Superboy. Let's see, which was Adventures was Superboy. So you go through each of those four covers and you start seeing who these folks are. You go a little bit further and you get some more information on these, and then obviously eventually you get to the point where you see the black suit Superman, which is the fight between Cyborg and Eradicator. And then I think it might be right after that. Let me see. Is it right here that we see? Nope, that's him and Superboy. I know one of these soon was where we first saw there's Eradicator again. Maybe it's Superman 81. Let's try that. So we see Superman in the black suit. And so we see this. Now we've gotten four kind of imposters at this point. We get this one. Immediately, my question is, do you know that this is the actual Superman when you first see this? Or is there something in your mind that thinks this is another imposter? We'll open it up. Who wants to go first?
I wasn't sure, because it's comic book writing, so you're always expecting some kind of swerve to come. I thought that it was, but I was tentative. The I just remember the hair though when they first showed him and he's got that long hair, and I mean that was totally a look for the time. Totally didn't fit Superman. I was so disappointed, and it actually causes me physical pain, like my chest tightens to this day whenever I see Superman.
I love long-haired
with that
Superman.
long hair. No, we need the cowlick, and a nice boy's cut. Like it's long hair is not Superman. They might as well turn him red and blue and give him electrical powers. It's ridiculous.
Which we can get into that later on, but okay.
So the part that confused me was when he came out of the regeneration matrix.
Yep.
His hair was that length, and then when he comes out of the big, I forget what is the big ass robot, isn't it? It's long. So what is the time between that?
I think,
or did it just accelerate?
Yeah, because there was another. Let's see. I think it was Man of Steel here. I think he might have had long hair in this one. I think that might have just been the cover, because I don't think it actually grew from the time he came out of the regeneration. I don't know, Sean. Do you remember?
I remember that the issue. I don't remember all of them, but I know the issue where it like Dan Jurgens did it, so it's probably in Superman itself, and he had the mullet, and like Steel and Superboy were all like, "Well, who the hell are you?" and all that, and he's just like, "I went down as far as anybody could possibly go. I don't have my powers back, but I'm freaking Superman."
Yeah, because it is shorter there. Yeah.
So I think it was the issue that you showed a little while ago when either the cover got done before they figured that out in the story or something, but yeah, they did it with the longer hair. And personally, like what Joe was saying about the long hair, for me, it wasn't necessarily, it pained me, but I remember even back then just kind of going, this is what you're taking from the 90s.
Yeah.
The mullet. This is all we're getting. Dude, it's not like he gets a new suit. It's a mullet Superman.
Well, he did get the black suit at first. So we did get that.
Look at that picture though. That picture, it's not Superman. Like he's looking off, all noble like that. He looks like he should be in a band. I mean, it's not Superman.
Yeah, he's in a band called The Coolest Superman Ever.
No.
He's in the band Men of Steel, and they want to rock.
Trust me, I appreciate hair. That is not good hair on Superman.
Yeah, that was, for me, it was a big misstep, because the idea of the 4 Supermen, the Reign of the Supermen idea, that to me, it still wasn't them going 90s. Like I agree, Eradicator's probably the closest to the 90s feel, but it still felt like this is DC playing like they're in the 90s, but they're not, because again, Marvel, if you just picked up a Marvel book, felt 90s, it felt of its era. And I think that's part of why I love this so much, is it was just a fun mystery. Like, who is one of them really Superman? And if they are, how are we going to make it feel like Superman again or whatever? And then when we get to this, like I said, like if they gave him a new suit, not just the black suit, but something that was a little more like 90s-esque for Superman, that might have been like, okay, that's cool. Drop the mullet. Simple as that. Yeah. It was not my thing to see the mullet. It was very much like, this is the best we're getting as an update. Thanks. So
I was a fan of the mullet. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I'm a mullet fan.
That's cool.
I thought it looked great. I wasn't sure if this was the real Superman at first. Obviously, he comes back. He knows a lot of things that Superman would know, but so did Cyborg Superman. So we've grown not to trust that at this point. He has no powers at first. So, how can you be Superman and not have powers? So there were some questions about it, but then you start to see, I think, as it went along, and you see like who he is, like the character of Superman, you're like, oh, this is the guy. Like, this is like, even though he doesn't have powers, he's still going to put himself in harm's way to do what's right. Like, this is the guy. So you started to kind of see that. So I just, close this part down because we've seen enough covers. But I love the whole thing, from the death back through the rain, and then the other thing is that right after that, isn't that where they had where he got like super powered, like he, because he came out of the regeneration thing, he was absorbing the sun's rays like faster, and so then all of a sudden he got like totally ripped muscular to where he was going to explode or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Parasite had to drain him.
Yeah. So there was like they continued with that storyline a bit even after this. So yeah, I just love the fact that we got, you know, the characters that we got in the Reign of Superman. I love Doomsday's character, the whole storyline, the death and return. I love the mullet. I love the black suit. I love everything about it. I loved Funeral for a Friend. So there is nothing about this that I did not like. So yeah, I'm just a huge fan.
What's mind blowing to me is we had, and I don't need to go completely into all of that. I promise I won't, because otherwise we'll have a 5-hour episode. But when they go there, the second outing in the Snyderverse stuff, and they completely cut the knees out from under it by Justice League, all of a sudden he's back again. Like, okay, you guys really don't know what you want to do with Superman, because at least even in this, we are talking about why it worked. It was it was a huge publicity stunt, and even the writers were like, it was a slow news day. It just happened to be the slowest news day ever, and we put that out there, and that became the headline news of a fictional character, that it mattered so much. And then when you see these movies, it's like, you could have literally had an entire saga of Superman movies just based around him dying. This proves it.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. Did they back the wrong horse, you know?
The week after Death of Superman came out, Dan Jurgens and Brett Breeding were in my hometown, and they were at my local comic shop, and they were signing autographs. And I had them sign my one and only copy of Death of Superman that's still in the black bag and everything. And I remember at the time thinking, I'm going to be a fucking millionaire. Like I just got, because at the time, like I also had like the, I think it was with like the silver Sharpie, and that was fairly new at the time. So I'm like, I had them sign this black bag Superman, still sealed up, autographed it in the silver Sharpie. Like, this is going to be worth $1 million.
Yep. And
little did I know they made about 10 million of those things.
Yeah, it was so
everybody else thought the same thing, and then the implosion just because of one issue of a comic book. Yeah,
but it was just a cool little segment in time, and I just love it. I know we're starting to get toys on them now. We're going to start talking about that, but any other thoughts on the comics themselves, from the death all the way through the reign? Any other comments or things that you'd like to bring up? We'll start with Joe.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think that current DC movies producers could take a lesson from this series of comics.
Absolutely.
I would be willing to bet that they sat down and they plotted out this entire thing. I bet they had a timeline, start to finish, what they were going to do before they even started producing it. And I think that's what's, so that there was consistency the whole way through. You have quite a few different writers, but they all have a direction that they need to go. And I really believe that's what they need with the movies, with their movies, is some type of consistency. Hey, this is the end goal. This is what we're going to do even 10 years from now. This is where we're going to get to. Let's start producing movies with some continuity that are moving in this direction the whole time. And I think that would be.
Yeah, just to comment on that real quick.
They would do themselves a huge favor doing that.
Yeah, I know Sean and I have had many discussions on this about how they've made mistakes in the DC universe. And obviously, the biggest one probably being with Superman, because the most important part, at least in Sean's opinion, my opinion is, that you got to have that heart for Superman, and they didn't take the time in these newer movies to build that up. So you rush this first storyline and get him to fight Zod and them, and you don't really learn about who the Superman, the person is. Then you get, the first kind of team up thing with him and the Superman Batman, and you throw in like Doomsday at the end of that for no reason. And it's not even a good, like, it looks nothing like Doomsday from the comics. It doesn't even, like, when I first saw it, I didn't even realize it was Doomsday, because I'm like, what the fuck is this thing? And the way that
Doomsday
it came
is
about,
Zod, right? In the
yeah,
movie?
Yeah.
Which
it's
doesn't
just
make any
very
sense,
strange.
right?
But can
The
you
only-
imagine a universe where they build this up and they slow roll it, and like you said, they have like a 10-year plan, and they build up the DC universe and show you who Superman is and build up the Justice League. And then if we got this as an actual movie or a series of movies, like maybe even a trilogy, that was, took you through the death and return of Superman, like, if they did it justice and did it right, can you imagine how good that would be?
Well, the other thing
Yes.
too, just the one thing about the story, the death of Superman story that gets me, is the Justice League is not the main Justice League. They are the Justice League at that time in the 90s. But we don't have Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green. I mean, we do have Guy, but he's not a Green Lantern even at that point. So we don't even have like a Hal or a John Stewart being those key roles in the Justice League. So it's like, I would absolutely love it if they did give us the version we didn't get in the comics. Let's have the real heavy hitter guys, and they're doing everything possible. And Superman's just like, I'm doing this. Because I that was one of the few things I liked in BVS, was at least you saw Wonder Woman fighting him, because you didn't get to see that in the comics. And that was kind of fun, because like they have that one shot where she gets knocked down and then she just like looks at him and she smiles and gets back up, and I'm like, not only is that awesome, I'm kind of aroused by that. Like that image of her just smiling, it's like, that's awesome too on a whole different level. But like, I know that was the continuity of the time. I'm not going to say that made it bad, but it would be kind of cool if they're going to do an adaptation. Just throw those heavy hitters at that too, and really go for the gold on it. And then have, this is why Superman does what he does, because all the heavy hitters can't even do this. So yeah, but otherwise, I agree completely with everybody. Like, this is really like, look at this, and if you're going to do it justice. Do not just do it because it's the thing they did in the 90s.
Yeah, you can't
heart
make this the first thing you do. You've got to build up to this.
Yeah,
Ryan,
I think you guys forgot about the masterpiece that DC did, and it was called Steel with Shaquille O'Neal, and it happened. You guys are forgetting all about it.
that's true.
Come on.
True. We did forget about that.
No, but I agree. I hate that they did Doomsday that way. The only thing I can say that they did right was the fact that he was Kryptonian.
Yeah.
That's it. He looked like a fucking turd.
He did. He looked like Chet from Weird Science.
he was the aborted stone troll from Lord of the Rings that just didn't have they didn't put him in that movie, so they put him in this.
Terrible. I do want to bring up this comment here. Mike says Superman works best in storytelling when his ideas and ideals are challenged, not necessarily his powers. Mike, can't agree any more with that. Like it's just, yeah. And then he goes on to say too much of this kryptonite is his weakness crap. Yeah, because while kryptonite is a weakness, I think his love of humanity is the thing that is the one that villains can take advantage of and really makes him, have to think and make decisions.
Kryptonite is cheap.
So,
it's a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
Just when we need to get Superman out of the way for a while, throw in a rock.
Yeah.
It's lazy writing, 100%.
Well,
Yeah.
The other thing too, in my opinion, is I don't need Superman to be so super powered that he can juggle planets. That's not Superman to me. Like, I like that he is able to do stuff that we as humans aren't capable of doing, but he still needs to have limits. And that, like, kryptonite was their way of giving him limits, but it's like, well, you could still do that without needing to use kryptonite too.
Right.
I mean, just don't say he could literally go off into deep space and still be alive, not breathing for months or what. That whole thing to me is still like, I don't like that.
I loved Smallville. I love the fact that we got Smallville. I enjoyed the series, but the fact that they explained everything with kryptonite just it irritated the shit out of me.
Oh
like
my God,
everybody that had any sort of power or whatever, like everything came back to kryptonite, and it's like, just come on, like find something else, man. But yeah, I agree completely. So want to go into some of these toys that we're getting now, because obviously the 30th anniversary, this has kind of been, people have been talking about these things, and we've started to get some really awesome toys.
Just
the
real
first
quick
one I'm
before
going
we
to
move
bring up.
on, I do have to say that I collected when Steel and Superboy got their own runs, the series. Both of those were fantastic. Those are an excellent read. Just high quality comic books. I really enjoyed those.
Yeah, and then later on when Superboy grows up and then he joins the Teen Titans and stuff, like then you get the blue jean black t-shirt version of
Farm Boy.
Superboy.
Superboy.
Oh, so good. So this thing just came out just recently. I know a few people have picked this up. This is the Target exclusive McFarlane Doomsday and Superman 2-pack. This thing is a hot commodity. It is $59.99 at Target as a gold label exclusive. And then on eBay, that Doomsday by himself is selling for upwards of $100 loose. So if you can find this thing, grab it, because they're going fast. Thoughts on this set here? Sean.
It's really
hate the
good.
Superman.
Well, so
good.
it's cool that they did it. My biggest thing though is the McFarlane toys do not have a good sculpt for Superman yet, for my opinion. Like it is not like I'm still, and this is a really weird way of looking at it, I still think the Superpowers Kenner figure looks better than the McFarlane figures, because he looks like Phil Dunphy from Modern Family. Every time I look at this guy, it drives me nuts. I like that they did it. I think it's cool, and like that Doomsday looks freaking nuts.
Yeah,
but
the Doomsday really is the selling point of this 2-pack. Nobody can disagree with that. And
Absolutely.
I will say that the Superman does look better in hand, especially if you're having him like I've got in my display. And let me see if I can get my camera to go up there. I don't know if I can, but let me see if I can unbig myself. Like, I basically just got Superman getting his ass kicked by Doomsday. So, so if you're doing that with him, you don't need an amazing looking Superman to just get his ass kicked. So that's how I've got mine set up. And you're right. They have not done, in my opinion, like the Superman bodies look good for McFarlane. The Superman faces have all been trash. Like, I've not seen one Superman face that's looked good.
The one that I actually was surprised by was they have the first appearance one coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time where I'm like, okay, you managed to pull it off, but it's too, I don't know, it's too stylized to work with like this.
Yeah.
So, but I thought that was at least the first step in the right direction. And then they released that 1966 Superman. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? I literally, like, I love on the Instagram for McFarlane Toys. I just want to tangent because it is Superman, where like they showed that off on the Instagram like in the last day or two, and when you scroll that, there's all these people going, "Who is he?" Because he was never on the 66 show. Who is he modeled after? Like, there's no anything. It's just here's cosplay guy Superman. It's like, okay, I got nothing.
So I take that as you have not picked up this set.
I have not. I've actually seen this and I thought about it because, like you said, it's such an iconic moment in comics. But that Superman still is bugging me. Like, I do not like the look of Well,
Yeah.
so I would get it for
Depending on how
Doomsday,
you've
but
got it posed, it does not like the way that I've got it posed. You don't see like it's a profile, so you don't see the side of his face. You know, you don't see the face too much, and he's got the tattered cape and everything, and like Doomsday really is the centerpiece the way I've got it posed.
sure.
And it looks good enough to throw up there for now. If I get like I don't have the Hush Superman from Mafex. If I did, I would probably put that in there. But yeah, if I get another like a Mafex version, I'll probably replace that out. But that Doomsday, I don't see us getting like a Mezco or Mafex Doomsday anytime soon. So this will have to do for now. But
You know, that Doomsday looks like how Marvel would have drawn too. That's the thing that I love about it. Like I was just saying how DC had their way in the 90s. This, if Jim Lee was on Superman, you can bet that comic would have been must read for so many people because it would have looked like that. It would have been crazy.
He was badass. Joe, is this something that interests you at all?
I will not be purchasing this, but I also have made a conscious decision to not let nostalgia influence my purchasing habits, because that's
a big stance
for me.
That's hard.
Yeah, that's me and my it's just I bought too much stuff that are just in boxes now, because I told you guys I don't get rid of anything, so I've just got boxes and boxes of toys that I bought because it was nostalgia, and I don't want to say I regret the purchases, but I identified my weakness and moved away from it. I do have to say that it's a beautiful Doomsday, probably the best Doomsday figure I've seen. I'll agree with Sean, like the superpowers Kenner Superman is like the definitive Superman, in my opinion. So it's not the best Superman, but it's not bad. If I collected McFarlane DC stuff, I'd definitely pick it up just for that killer Doomsday. He looks pretty wicked.
And Jesse.
Hey, what's up, Jesse?
Hey, Jesse.
Oh, hi.
Jesse. How's it going?
What's up, fellas?
We've completed our talk about Death and Return of Superman in the comics. We're now starting to talk about the toys that we're getting. So we're talking about this 2-pack. And we are on Ryan. Ryan, your thoughts on this 2-pack?
So I will start this by saying I do not like the smaller release, like the 7-inch figures from McFarlane. I do, however, like the mega figures, or whatever he's calling it. I have the Storm Collectibles Doomsday, and I will say that this one is a better sculpt, and I feel like it scales better with most of the figures. I would love to get that. I haven't seen it.
I will be on the lookout for you. So,
and I appreciate it.
Yeah. Actually, if you're going to PowerCon next week, I'm sure you're going to probably find somebody selling this. I don't know what they're going to sell it for, but I'm sure you'll find it. Jesse, any thoughts on this 2-pack, Doomsday and Superman?
It's a pair of toys.
Thank you. It's one of the toys of all time.
I mean, I'm glad I wasn't here for the first part of the chat, just because I've never read any of that.
Hold on, let me embiggen myself while I.
Please don't break me in half next time I see you.
Go ahead. You've never read through the Death and Return of Superman.
Correct.
Wow. I just don't know how you work at a comic book shop.
Have you read every book? Have you read every comic book I've read?
No, I have not. But you work at a comic shop, and this has to be one of the top iconic storylines in all of comic history.
Okay.
I can't believe you haven't read this.
Hold on. Now, let me say this before you ban me from the show. Okay. When I started working at the comic shop, this comic was a long time ago.
Understood.
And it was almost a joke story at that point because you could buy the bagged versions for $1. Like they weren't worth anything. So it was just, and it was during the whole New 52. So nobody was talking about this when I started working at the comic shop, at least not regularly. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm passing no judgment on these books. At the time this came out, I was a Jim Lee snob, and I only wanted stuff to do with X-Men and Jim Lee comics. I'm fully embracing that as a flaw on my part. So that said, I think the Doomsday figure in this set looks absolutely amazing. The detail on it is crazy. I agree with you guys. I was listening as I was driving home. I've yet to really see a good Superman face from McFarlane. And I think this is a really cool set for people who want these versions of these figures. Absolutely.
Jesse, I am going to challenge you that over the next 12 months, at some point, you grab a trade paperback of the Death of Superman as well as the Reign of Superman and just read through it, because I don't see how you could read it and not like it. But that's just my personal challenge to you.
Okay.
You can probably skip the funeral for a friend and just watch daytime soap operas instead.
That's true. You can skip funeral for a friend. That's true. Okay, so that is the McFarlane 2-pack. Next, we will show some stuff from Mafex that we've had over the past year or so.
They own Curtis's soul.
They do. So starting out with
that's Abracadabra Man.
and I will say that I initially I didn't get this at first, because I didn't know that I needed this in my collection. It wasn't until I saw the Steel, and then the killer for me was the Cyborg Superman. As soon as I saw the Cyborg Superman, I was like, okay, now I got to get all these. But this is really a good figure. There's not a whole lot to it. I mean, obviously, it's just the plain black suit Superman. He didn't have the powers, so he does have the boots with the little jets on them and stuff. Oops. And he's got that really crazy face with the gritted teeth, like he's taking a shit. This one, and then just the standard face, but. I will say, like, with the entire set, like, just like posed like this, I think looks really good. Considering that we're getting the rest of this group, not having this one doesn't feel like an option to me. So I had to pick this up, and I'm not disappointed with it. It is a good looking figure.
Can you stop putting the mouse over his codpiece?
It is a good looking figure right here. Right here is a good part.
He's number one.
It's my mom's favorite part.
But I wouldn't have bought this by itself. But as a group, part of a group, I definitely like this. Ryan, I know you've got the Steel. You haven't picked this one up, have you?
No, I picked up the Mezco version though.
Okay. The one where he's like wearing the pajamas.
Yeah. I think this is a great sculpt, but something about that hair, it looks funny to me.
It looks like a mullet, which is what Joe was making fun of.
God, it's so awkward looking.
Yep.
It doesn't look like a mullet. It is a mullet.
Mm-hmm. It is, because it's awesome. Mullets rock.
Just got awful.
But that was at a time where people were actually losing their mullets anyway because they knew it was fading. And here's Superman go, I'm on it. I got this.
Yeah.
Wasn't this peak Billy Ray Cyrus?
Pretty close.
I don't know.
Around that time.
I mean,
I love that.
That broke it, I think, anyway. So yeah.
He comes back from the brink of death with a mullet. No.
All right.
Look,
well,
I think they were just trying to capture the small town Midwestern vibe.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And
Whoa.
mullets in the 90s in Midwestern America was probably like the shit.
Well, we weren't getting any love from the black suit Superman. So how about Steel? Because I will just say this figure is fucking amazing.
Why are you hiding his
awesome.
crotch?
Why am I what? Oh,
Hiding his
he's
crotch.
covering it up.
He's doing that intentionally. He knows Curtis
yeah.
will aim for it otherwise.
The soft goods on this are fantastic. The color of the costume or whatever, like that, it's got this. It's not just a straight gray. It's got this like blue tint to it. The tubing that's on the side of the legs, it's got like a flexible material here to where when you bend the leg, that tubing bends with it.
Doesn't hinder it at all.
Right. Yeah. And it just very photogenic. I know Ryan had taken some great photos with his. I'll just turn it over to Ryan first. Your thoughts on this figure here.
Ditto to everything you just said. Everything that I was going to say, you already you said it. But
yeah, go ahead.
I do wish the hammer was just a hair shorter. I feel like that was just a little too long.
Mm-hmm.
But I do agree with you. The bluish hue that it has instead of just like a straight gray or silver, it really adds to that. And I feel like it captures that comic book feel.
Yeah.
Like it's straight off of the page.
And he's also a little bit taller than the other figures, which I like. Just like when you put him next to other figures, he's like half a head taller than the rest, which I just think is cool. He's just got a really cool stature about him. So, yeah. Sean?
Looks amazing. Again, like I fell in love with this character and Superboy through the reign of the Supermen. So I love that they have a really, really freaking good steel figure out there. I don't collect. Ironically, I love Superman, but I don't collect the figures. But this would be a must-have if I was collecting Superman figures right now.
Yeah,
I buy it.
I love this.
Just do it.
Joe?
Yeah, I'm with Sean. I don't collect, any superhero figures right now, but this would be a definitive steal for me. I mean, they got the head sculpt is great. He looks serious. The cobalt blue steel look for the costume is great. It's a really cool action figure for sure.
Yeah, I just don't know how you would improve upon this. Like it's so good. Like, I know, obviously, as we get further along in time, like technology gets better and then tooling and stuff gets better, but I just can't imagine them putting out a better version of Steel than this. And Jesse, who won't read the comic, what do you think?
Well, I mean, now I definitely don't want to. Before it was just it hasn't happened. Now it's an active I don't want to.
Okay.
I think you would, dude. I think you would love Steel.
I'm sure I would. I think, again, I don't collect the Mafex, but this is a really sweet looking figure. I think that from the pictures I've seen and stuff, like here and what Ryan and I've seen in other groups and stuff, I think it's an awesome looking figure.
And the last one that's out currently for that line is the Cyborg Superman. And once again, I don't know how you would do a better version of this. It's just so fucking fantastic. Like it's like ripped right out of the comics. And you said you don't have this one yet, right, Ryan?
Yeah, I got to get on that.
It's fantastic.
Those soft goods look incredible for this and the Steel.
Yeah.
Oh,
and we were talking
amazing.
about that before the show. Like Mafex, I've got a couple figures that are older that the soft goods aren't as good, like from like 2 years ago. Within a 2 year period, their soft goods have really ramped up. to where these, you got it fully wired. There's actually like a piece under this that they call like the chicken feet, that help the cape kind of stand up and billow a little bit more at the top. And yeah, it's just creates a really good look. And then this one also has like he's got like a laser gun that he comes with. This is the only one that doesn't come with like an alternate head, but he comes with this gun that's got some blast effects right there. So no extra head, but you do have the blast effects. And then anybody else want to comment on that?
Well, I did see, I'd love to see a repaint. I saw some art of him in the Red Lantern outfit.
Oh, yeah.
Cyborg Superman Red Lantern, and that looked dope, like the black and red, with like the symbol inside it looked pretty amazing. So I'd love to see a repaint of that for sure. I thought that was a really cool costume for him.
And then just a couple weeks ago at San Diego Comic-Con, they showed us the other two in that line, which is Eradicator and Superboy, as seen here. Now we only have, really I've looked pretty much everywhere, and this is the only shot that I've really seen of these. I haven't seen any better angles or anything. Starting with the Eradicator, you can see he's got the translucent glasses, the glaucoma glasses that Sean was talking about. You can see the cape does go right into the logo. You've obviously got that, blue down the center with the black on the outside. So, I mean, they've really nailed the look on that one, in my opinion. And then Superboy, some concerns with the, this is a like fake leather jacket, which does match, what he had in the comic books, but there's some questions on how well that's going to hold up over time. There's been some Mafex. Actually, I don't know about Mafex, but there's definitely been Mezco figures with like this fake leather, and it tends to break down over time. So who knows how well that's going to hold up. I'm not sure what type of material they're actually using. And then there's also been concerns over the face here on this Superboy that some people are not real happy with the way that face looks. I've even heard some people call it the Mr. Bean head. So I'm not sure if that, I mean, obviously this is just a first look at San Diego Comic-Con. So this is not necessarily the final version. Plus every other one besides the Cyborg Superman, they've had multiple heads on. And I would pretty much guarantee that we're going to get at least one Superboy head that has the sunglasses. I would be surprised if we didn't. Thoughts on these two? Whoever wants to go first. We'll just go down the list. Sean, thoughts on these two?
It's cool they're doing them. I like that they're completing the set. But yeah, for my money, the Cyborg and the Steel are above and beyond compared to these. And I know this is just, San Diego Comic-Con stuff, but the designs of these just don't even hold a candle to me to the other two when you see them.
Okay. Jesse?
Again, I don't really have much of an attachment to either character, but I think they look like pretty great figures.
Joe?
Boy, the Eradicator sure takes me back to the 90s. I mean, he is all 90s now. Sure. The Superboy, if they nailed that head sculpt, if I didn't have my nostalgia rule for purchasing, I would be real tempted to pick it up. I sure loved this character in the 90s. And that looks like a great figure if they, it looks like a prototype head sculpt though. I mean, I'm sure that's not going to, it'll be way better in the final version. But
I haven't seen the back of this figure because like I said, this is the only angle I've seen, but I'm hoping they have that all yellow Superman logo on the back of his jacket, like it did in the comic. And if they give him a hand with the thumb sticking out to where he can point to the Superman logo, like the one comic, that would be like an iconic pose for this. And I think that would be great.
Even right now, I'm tempted. Like I really enjoyed that character a lot. I like that. I like that one. I'm tempted. I'll probably talk myself out of it, but I'm tempted.
And Ryan, so you got Steel, you haven't picked up Cyborg, you haven't picked up the black suit Superman, and then you see these two, and then you think to yourself, "Fuck!" Right? Like, I got to spend more money.
No, I don't look at it that way. I'm saying, "Fuck yeah!" I got to pick these both up. The only thing I just hope that Superboy is a little bit shorter than all of them.
Yep.
So that way he can stay true to the comic. But I'm in, and I agree with you. I hope it does come with the glasses, like a head for the glasses.
Yeah. I will say that I've seen Mafex typically does a pretty good job of alternating or altering the height of the figures to where you do have some taller, some shorter. Like we said with the Steel, he sits about a foot taller than, or half a head taller than most of the other characters. So I think that's a good call out with the Superboy. I do hope that he's a little bit smaller than the other figures. And I think they'll probably do that because they usually are pretty good with it. But it's hard to tell from this picture because obviously he's sitting closer to the camera and Eradicator's further back. So it's hard to get based on the perspective on, what the size is. But I would hope, to your point, that they would do that. I just love on the jacket too, how you've got like the straps for the jacket hanging down, and like just the attention to detail on both of these characters, as well as the Steel and the Cyborg. It just looks like they jumped right off of those comics that we were looking at. So cool.
I will add one thing. I do, even though I'm not collecting those, I do like when they complete a set, when a company gives you like the whole spread of the characters that belong together. I do think that's really cool. So for fans of that, I'm really glad that they're getting the chance to get those.
I'll be honest, I was getting nervous. I was like, because like when I saw the black suit Superman, I didn't jump. When I saw Steel, I didn't jump. Then I saw Cyborg and it was too good. So I went and got the other three, and I was like, man, I really hope they give us the other two. And the fact that they showed them both at once, that really made me happy. So
let me throw this out there. Do you think there is even the tiniest possibility that they would try to give us a Doomsday?
I don't know. I mean, they just did the Bane figure, which is a little bit bigger. But I haven't really seen Mafex do like huge figures. So I don't know if they would give us a Doomsday or not. It's a good question, though. Like their Bane one, it says it's because like most of these figures are like right at 6 inches. The Bane is like 7.5 inches. So it's taller, but it's not like super tall. So I don't know. It's a good question. I really don't have an answer. I think, like you were talking before about Storm Collectibles, I think that there's a chance that we might get one from another company that would be maybe better than the McFarlane one. But I think for right now, the McFarlane one is the best.
Price-wise, too.
Yeah, definitely
for that sculpt.
Yeah. So just kind of going back to where we started here. So we've got the return of Superman 30th anniversary special. Looks like it's coming out in October, from what it said. Yeah, coming out in October. And Jesse, I'm going to need you to be on the lookout because apparently there's a few different variant covers here. Foil variant, a couple other variants. So
yeah, I can't promise those just because they're ratio variants. If I can secure them, they will be higher priced.
Jesse, price is not an object.
I'm just letting you know.
I'm letting you know.
This is
price.
This isn't going to be
matter.
like a blind bag thing, is it?
I don't think so.
No, so the 1 in 25, it just means for every 25 of the regular cover, you'll get one of the Brad Walker cover. For every 50 of the other one, you'll get one of the John. I can't say that.
Bogdanov.
Bogdanov, whatever. And the foil variant, I don't know how many they are. So like, if I can securely order them, I will definitely order them for you. But
I'll take
I guarantee you there will be a ton of these that are available through specific retailers only. Like Midtown Comics usually gets variants that only they get, or Unknown Comics, different sites, they'll get like specific artists to do a variant for them. So this looks like just the official basic ones at the moment.
Gotcha. Okay. So and then it says $9.99 US, 80 pages. So I'm guessing that's the main one, and then 3 variants, correct? Well, no, it says
I know
variant covers by these folks. So
yeah, so there'll be the regular cover, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 regular covers, which I think I sent you pictures of all of them. I think it's each of the 4 characters.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the 1 in 25, the 1 in 50, and the foil variant, which I don't know what the percentage on that one is, which is $1 more.
So a grand total of 4, 5, 6, 7 total covers, or is there one? Oh no, there's original cover by Dan. Yeah, so 8 total.
Yeah, so at least in the regular available to everybody shop kind of thing.
So I need all 8 of those, and I need them with bags and boards, and I expect them to be in the bags and boards. Like you don't like when you're a comic shop and you sell a bag and board, you should put.
Asking me as Jesse, your friend, to do that, that's one thing. If you're asking me as Jesse, the comic shop,
I'm asking all. Listen, here's what I'm saying. Any comic book shop people that are out there, if I buy a comic and a bag and board, my expectation as a customer is that you put that comic in the bag and board when you hand it to me. Okay. I'm specifically buying that one bag and board to go with that one comic that I'm buying. And
the front of the counter for you to pick up yourself.
Likewise, if I'm buying 5 comics and 5 bag and boards, I expect them all to go in the bag and board. So,
and you need to put them in there wearing white velvet gloves.
Yeah, well,
and a gold bow tie.
I just want. Sean knows this. Working in the shop, we get people. I mean, I'm sure you got this when you were there more regularly, but like people would come in and they'd be holding them like delicate little babies because they thought their black bag signed by Juergens and whoever was going to be $1 million. Like they do that with every issue that comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And they, like some people won't even let me touch the comic to scan it and type it in.
Mm.
It's like they'll just be like, "Here, you can look at it." And I'm like, "Dude, do you know how many people have already handled that comic?"
Yeah.
Like, how many sweaty dudes and
look at other comic book guys coming to your defense, Jesse. You got Douglas in here.
Well, I'll come
to his defense. Bag it yourself.
It's an OCD thing from my perspective. It's like I want to do what I want to do with it because if there is a chance that employee puts it in and they accidentally bend the cover somehow, like there's a little dog ear to it now, is like, at least if it was me, I have no one else to blame but myself for how I managed to do that. If it was somebody else and they're there at the counter doing it and they're in a rush to get something done, yeah, it's like, no, I will do that myself when I get home. I have a way I want to do it. I'm good. Like, I don't need the extra thing because, they don't have the white gloves that I have when I get home. You know what I mean?
Here's the counter that I would have then, Jesse.
Thank you for that, Jeff, by the way. That's true.
No problem.
Jesse, if that's your take that there's people that don't want you touching it, and your boy Douglas says that I have hands. If that's the case, then what I would say is that either you're going to have to wait in line for your next customer for me to bag them up because I'm not leaving that facility without having them in the bag and board, or create a separate area after checkout, a counter space or something, to where I could then bag and board it, because I am not walking into the parking lot without that in a bag and board.
as a shop employee, I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
Well,
For you
and
to- for
never-
you to-
In the
That's-
shops I have gone to, worked at, only one has ever had them in the bag and board for me when I pick them up off the shelf. And I don't know how they afforded to do it. They eventually went out of business, I think.
Okay, but can you understand what I'm saying as far as creating a space for me to do it?
As yes and no, because then everybody's going to want tape, and you're going to have your own bag and board station. Like, that's not what the shop is. Like, if I go to the bookstore, I don't expect the people at the bookstore to give me a place to shrink wrap my hardcover book as
I
on
think
my way out.
expecting tape
I think
is unrealistic, because I mean, I can tape it when I get home, but the bag and board will protect it from the time that I leave till the time I get home. You understand?
so will the bag we put it into.
Exactly.
Oh, that bag you're putting it into is shit.
Well,
that is not protecting anything.
They do have the plastic free comic book day bags that typically, even if it's raining, as long as it's closed.
If it's raining, I give you a plastic bag. If it's not raining, you get one of the paper bags, and you get the proper size depending on how big your stack of comics is.
Regardless if you give me a paper bag or a plastic bag, if I take that out and somebody bumps into me or something, that's not protecting anything. But the board,
that's not our problem.
Board will. I'm not saying it is your problem, but as a customer that's buying a comic and a bag and board, if you're not going to put it in the bag and board for me, I think that here's how I would do it. If you don't have a separate space for me to do it, I'm going to sit there right at the counter and bag every one of the comics that I just purchased.
Yeah,
before anybody else is coming over to check out.
Yeah,
and if that means that there's 20 people behind me, then that means they're just going to have to wait.
That is between you and God, my friend.
Two things. Well, first, I see Curtis walking in, and everybody in there going, "Oh, it's this guy."
It's
Curtis is that guy, And then
I walk in and they go, "Man, finally he's going to pick up these comics we've had on hold for 3 months."
No,
that box has already been closed.
I got a story.
But I gotta say, in Curtis's defense, I haven't collected comics since the 90s. I see that $9.99 price tag on there, and they should come wrapped in gold foil. Holy moly.
No
$10
shit,
for a
right?
book.
Well, then that's what I'm talking about.
That's
with the variant covers too.
That is barely double the price of a regular DC comic at this point. Most DC comics are $4.99.
Yeah,
right
but
now.
like for those variant covers and stuff, like if I'm spending more money on those, and I want to protect them before I get home.
Let me let you know the like the ratioed variants, they usually do do get bagged and boarded. Like we usually bag and board those before they get put out.
Well, see, why didn't you tell me that? That's important.
The ratio
ones. Yeah,
and I was going to tell you as a friend. I will bag and board the comics before I either send them to you or bring them to you at the con or whatever.
I understand, but we're not talking about Jesse the friend. We're talking about business practices here. And
it's not, I don't set the policy. If it was my store, I would do things differently, but it's not my store. I do it by the store policy.
And what would you do differently?
This guy again.
if it was someone buying stuff like a long distance customer, or if I have, I'd probably make it a monthly fee. You want your comics bagged and boarded, it's X dollars amount before we put it in your box.
Greg, if I'm buying a car, you better have it filled up the top with gas. You better have those wheels better. The tires better be armor-alled. They better be looking good. I want one of the new Christmas tree thing, smelly jobs in the car. I want that. Yeah, I want that thing ready to go. I want the floor mats vacuumed. It needs to be top.
Wait, you have floor mats in your car?
And a free oil change.
Wait, I bet your air conditioning and your window goes down too.
Yeah, free oil.
But he won't buy it from you unless he knows you've read the Death and Return of Supermix. Otherwise, you are even on the list of anyone he will buy a car from, because that shows you were there. You get it. So.
Now, look, when people come in and they buy a stack of books and they do buy a handful of bags and boards, I will almost always take the time to put a couple of the bags and boards on top of the books and a couple on the back of the books, so they're sandwiched between.
See, that's smart. I like that.
That's how I used to do it too.
Yeah.
What about Douglas? Is Douglas do that? Is he nice with customers, or is he?
Douglas
just
swears at customers constantly. No. Douglas
I can see that.
treats people right.
That motherfucker walks through the door. Curtis walks through the door. That
Throws the bags of boards. Now get the fuck out of here.
I give you guys a lot of credit. Anybody? Oh, sorry, Sean. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that then there's the employee that comes out of the back and they're like, watch this, I know how to get rid of him. They're like, Phil, man, it's you, Phil. They said it wasn't Phil, but I told them it was Phil. Come here, give me a kiss, baby. And that's how they teach you. Eddie Murphy, Beverly Hills Cop. There you go.
Classic.
Oh,
Yeah.
apparently we stressed out Greg.
What was the hostility?
I could not work with the public. There's just no way. My girlfriend's had quite a few food service jobs. She worked at a Porta Subs, and I remember she got a write-up. She told me for there was a complaint that she put too many onions on this guy's sandwich, so he complained and got her in trouble. And me, I'm used to working at a mine, so I flip out right away. I'm yelling at her. It's not her fault, but I'm like, he watched you make the sandwich. I'd be yelling at the guy across the street. You watch me make the sandwich. You watch me. If you don't want that many onions, I'll take them off. Just tell me. I would totally not do well if Curtis came into my store.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. Any other comic practices or frustrations that you want to talk about, Jesse?
I mean, yeah. How long do we want to stay on the show?
Sure. I mean, to throw one out at us. Maybe there's some other things that I and other people have been doing that we don't realize is frustrating for people that work at the comic shops.
So this is just point of fact.
Mm-hmm.
Chances are you as the customer know more about stuff coming out than we do.
Did you know DC comes out on Tuesdays?
Here we go.
Yes.
Here we go.
But like people will come in and they'll just say something like, "Oh, I want to get that new book with the guy with the cape." I'm like, "The new Superman book?" No, it's not Superman. You go through all these things. It was the new Superman, but they just don't know what they're talking about. Or they'll be like, "Oh, they just announced this new thing today." It's like, "Sorry, I've been at work all day. I don't have like a comic news feed constantly injecting our face with this information." If you know about it, they just announced it today. It's probably going to be in the next previews catalog that comes out next month, and then we'll be able to put it in our system. If we make suggestions for you on stuff, don't just dismiss it. It's like, and again, I can only speak for our shop and the way we do things. Like we make recommendations for people. It's like, oh, this new X book is coming up. It's a crossover. Nobody will sign up for it. And then it comes out, you get 2 or 3 issues into it, and the first 2 issues are gone, and people are like, well, why didn't you get me this? I'm like, you didn't want it. We tried to talk to you into getting it, and you said no, you check it out when it came in, and you rejected it. Fortunately, with the app and the website we're using now, people can go through and they can take their time and look on the website and see stuff's coming out and add it directly to your box digitally. You don't have to call and contact us. So, which, I know a lot of shops have been able to do that for a long time, but our shop just started doing that in the past couple months. We don't read everything. Between between the 4 or 5 of us that work in our location of the 2 stores, like Nikki has a great spread of knowledge for certain books. John does, Douglas does. I have my, niche of stuff I like, and, we can kind of cross over between, but, someone come like, oh, they were recommending this really great kids book. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. It's such a weird niche little book. And I was like, I'll be happy to help you track down, or, I don't know. I know nerd stuff tends to draw in a lot of socially awkward people. I mean, I'm not excluding myself from that, but you walk into the store and someone clearly makes eye contact with you and says hi, is there anything we can help you with? Like, don't ignore us and just go stand over against the wall. Just, it's like, all right, screw you, man, whatever. Like,
Gotcha. Okay, so be social.
I'm not saying you have to come up and engage in like an in-depth conversation about our entire life, but it's like, hey, how's
But
it going?
acknowledge your existence.
Just cold stare. Like, we get so many people, they'll cold stare, look at us, walk over to the new wall. So we go about doing whatever we're doing. And if we're looking away, then all of a sudden they're just standing right at the counter, like leaning over, and they're like, box 54. No hi, no acknowledgement that we greeted them, just box 54 or whatever the number is.
So you're not specifically calling out the person that owns box 54.
No, I don't know who has box 54. That's not it's just the first number I thought of right now.
Gotcha. Okay.
But that box 54 is on notice.
So what if
car 54?
Yeah. What about when we come up to the counter and we say, hey, I'm looking for this issue. Looks like you guys are sold out. Is there any way of getting it? And you guys pick up the phone. You say, we're going to call our other store. Is there anybody on the other end of that line, or are you guys just faking a call?
I have never faked a call at the comic shop. Kevin, box 42 is mine. You can't have it. Yes, for that reason. No, like if someone comes in, we don't have it. The first thing I do is not the first thing, but one of the things we'll do is we'll look to see if it's available to reorder. If it's not, I definitely call the other store.
What makes something available or not available to reorder? Like from a comic standpoint, is they
so
like, is it popular titles or
if it's a new book that came out on Wednesday and you're in on Wednesday and we're sold out, generally a lot of those books, especially if it's something that's not one of the big selling titles for the big companies, they're usually in the process of like taking care of like lost damages. So each week we have to report how many books were damaged, where we shorted, 10 cover Bs for Batman this week. So we didn't have enough for all our subscribers. We needed 5 of those to fill all of our subscriptions. Therefore there's none on the wall and we're 5 short for our subscribers. So some stuff isn't available until the companies, the distributors finish adjusting all those loss, damage, misplaced, refills. So sometimes, even though it just came out that day, it might show sold out or not available. But then once they finish that cycle, they'll come up as available again. Especially with smaller stuff, smaller publishers. If it's sold out the day it comes out, it's probably gone. Because, a lot of those places print to order. So if there's only 4,000 copies ordered, they print 4,500. Like I don't. Some of them have certain limitations. Like Marvel. This is getting really deep. Marvel years ago in the 90s, they sold off so many of their rights to the movies, and that's why Fox and Sony and all those different companies had all the different movie rights, and they weren't all under one because Marvel was about to go bankrupt, like completely.
Right.
And part of the deal was, and I might be quoting some of this wrong, but part of the deal was like they weren't allowed to have just ad infinitum copies of books on order. So they couldn't print up like 1 million copies of a book just to have stuff in warehouse to fill orders. They had to keep orders really tight. So Marvel usually sells out the fastest as far as actually being able to refill stuff that's already come in, as far as the big stuff goes. So we'll call down to our other store since we have one. If they have it in stock, they'll be like, yep, we put the box or the name and phone number on it, and it comes up later in the week. If they don't have it, but it's available to order in the system, we punch it through. It's usually within a week and a half, depending on what day of the week the order goes in on. Because we only reorder new stuff once a week. But all the stuff that comes out on Wednesday, we ordered 3 months ago, or at least 2 months ago. So that's why the previews catalog is 2 months ahead for the regular titles. So the stores have a chance to adjust. And that's why you'll find stuff like issue 2 or 3 you might have those might be the harder issues to find in a miniseries or a new run because it hadn't picked up. So the store would have had to put their orders for 2 in before issue 1 ever hit the shelves. So if they only had 10 people sign up for issue 1, they order 15. They're going to order 15, maybe even 12 of issue 2. Then issue 3 comes out, number 1's skyrocketing. They might be able to adjust 3 a little bit and get some more of those in. But, it's a whole... And the speculator market, really drives that stuff insane because news will break like less than a week before a book comes out about like, oh, this is going to be the new hot thing from Image. And everybody comes and looks for it, or this weird small indie press. And not that there's anything wrong trying to invest in stuff, but it does this like kind of false negative, false positive stuff where there'll be a big boom on it. And then maybe it's not really a good book or it doesn't go anywhere. And then the prices like immediately fall on it for aftermarket stuff. So,
gotcha.
It's risky if that's how you buy.
Okay,
in my opinion.
You guys interested in doing This Week in Theaters?
Sure, why not?
Jesse, you want to roll a die for me, and we'll just take that number and add it to 1980. And
Is that Jesse's loaded die?
Yep.
The 1986
Now
die?
see, the thing is, the guy has I rolled a 2 this time.
So that would be 1982.
Oh, is that how you're doing it?
That's how I'm gonna do it because we don't have the wheel.
Okay.
So
okay.
So let me.
At least it's not
here.
1988 again.
That is true.
True.
So let's share screen. All right. So we got 1982, and we're looking for August 4th. So it'd be this one here. And it looks like number 1 at the box office is E.T. We've got Best Little Whorehouse in Texas,
Ooh.
Officer and a Gentleman, Night Shift, Young Doctors in Love, Rocky 3, The World According to Garp, Poltergeist, Six Pack, and rounding out the top 10 is Annie. Sorry for those Indiana Jones folks out there. That is at number 11, and we only do from the top 10. So out of those top 10, you go back, you're able to watch one of these right now. You go back in time, you can watch one of these in the theater. Which one are you watching? We are going to start with Sean and work our way down. Sean, what you seeing?
I'll stick with E.T. Yeah, that's the first movie I ever saw as a kid in the theater. So it'd be kind of fun to rewatch it on the big screen again.
This was at 8 weeks in the box office. It was still number 1. So, all right, Jesse.
I would say The Secret of Nim, but it's number 12. So I'm going with E.T.
What is Secret of Nim, though?
It's an animated one about mice that get experimented on in a lab at a farmhouse, kind of a thing.
Interesting.
It's
Okay.
the first time I've ever heard a cartoon swear.
Okay. All right. So we got 2 for ET. Joe, what are you seeing?
I'm going with Poltergeist.
Ooh, nice.
That is just a good freaking movie. I think that for me, the way that I look at movies, it's a horror movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody dies in the movie. It's just a scary movie. And I'm an enormous fan of the original Poltergeist. So I almost went with Rocky 3 because, I mean, come on, Rocky. I was like 5, so I didn't start to appreciate those movies until a lot later. But
yeah,
I got to go with Poltergeist. I would love to see that in the theater. I think it would be a good time.
All right. Ryan, what you got?
I wasn't born yet. So
Well, you're going back now as an adult, but you're going back in time. These are the 10 ones that are at the theater. What would you want to see?
probably Poltergeist.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Joe.
So we got 2 ET, 2 Poltergeist. I will break the tie and say Rocky 3, and since mine counts for 3 votes, I win. Yeah, Rocky 3. I mean, you got Mr. T in there, you got Hulk Hogan. Like, come on. I mean, that's that's the Eye of the Tiger one. So
Yep.
yeah, I mean, come on, it's good. Plus, at the end, you get the whole Apollo versus Rocky, where they do the punch
The
like
freeze
that, and they
frame.
freeze
Yeah.
frame and do like the oil painting. So
And don't forget the running around on the beach too, and they hug
Yeah.
a lot.
yeah, where
And
they
the
have
short
like
shorts.
those rippling muscles that always made me jealous because they've got like those big round shoulders with
Yep.
like the lines in them and stuff. And I was like, oh, I wish I had cool shoulders. My shoulders.
Welcome to Kurtstonia. We tell you what movies are good
suck.
here.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I was actually
E.T.
thinking
out. Poltergeist out. Rocky 3 it is.
No, what I was thinking though is like if Curtis was Thanos, the Infinity War would have only been literally one gem, and he would have just been, I really got all 5. I'm serious. I got one of them, but that's all that matters.
I would have just got the reality stone and just made
Exactly.
my reality. Yeah. So, all right. What about anything that you're watching? I know there's a few things that have just finished up. Obviously, Witcher series just finished up. Twisted Metal, people are talking about. I know, Ryan, you were talking about Twisted Metal. Any non-spoiler comments that you have? Because I'm sure not everybody in the group has seen it. So any non-spoiler comments for the series?
As crazy as you think it is, it gets crazier. And I feel like they didn't overdo the comedy aspect of the series.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get the best of both. You get action, there's a little bit of drama, and then the comedy.
I'm surprised, each one of these kind of video game movie or TV shows that they're coming out with, I expect one of them to bomb, and they're all so good. Like I love the Witcher series, I love Last of Us, and this is right along with that. I like you think that whole game was basically just driving into each other and shooting the shit out of each other. How do you make
Blowing
a
shit
TV
up.
series? Right.
Yeah.
How do you make a TV series out of it? But it's so good. It is way better than it should be. Anybody that hasn't checked out that Twisted Metal series, highly recommend it. Jesse, Sean, Joe, have you guys checked any of that out yet? Twisted Metal?
Not yet.
yet.
No.
I will, just not yet.
It's so good.
That's on Peacock. I
It's
don't have
worth
a
it.
subscription to that one yet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Peacock. And Peacock's like so cheap. It's like, I don't know, like $3 a month or some shit like that. Like it's like super cheap.
Manageable.
It's with you. The downside is it has ads, but it's not as bad as most other apps with ads.
Yeah. What about Witcher? Anybody finished off? I know, Jesse, you finished off, right? And any spoiler-free comments on this last season of Witcher?
Overall, I liked it. I thought the last 3 episodes were kind of a mess. Like there was some really cool stuff in it. It just felt really disjointed and I don't know if that's because if it was filmed in a way and they knew Henry was going to be leaving and it just I don't know if there was just breakdowns. It just didn't feel as coherent as the rest of the season or the rest of the show to this point. Not necessarily bad, but it felt weird that there was that big gap between the first 5 and this, especially since, minor spoiler, but not information spoiler, that episode 6 picks up like right where episode 5 left off. Like it's almost like a 2-part. I had to kind of like try to remember what was happening. But I think the actress that plays Yennefer is amazing, and I will probably watch the next season at least to see what goes on with her. But yeah, it was good. But it's kind of that bittersweet with knowing what's going on with Henry Cavill and all the stuff there, that it was a little bit of a sour taste overall, but still enjoyable.
It sounds like we may not get season 4 until like late 2025, maybe even 2026, because they're they're not even going to start filming it till midway of next year. And then they said it takes, upwards of like 15 months to get it from filming to on TV. So we've got a ways. My take on it was I thought the season was very good. I enjoyed the whole season. I did feel like it kind of left us in a weird spot. Like I expected more closure for Cavill's role as that character than what we got. And kind of like you were saying, like you did the first 5 episodes, then you come back with 6, and like 6 is just like in your face, like action packed, as well as the first 5 were. I mean, it feels like there was a lot of action, and then you you hear episode 7, and it's like no action whatsoever. It like changed direction and like slowed down to a crawl, which just felt really weird to me. And I've seen some other people complain about. I didn't think it was a terrible episode, episode 7, but it was definitely the feel of it was completely different from everything else in the rest of the season. And then 8, I'm sitting there waiting for some way that they're going to set up like Geralt to look differently when he comes back in season 4, and I just didn't feel like that ever happened. So, anybody else? Joe, you a Witcher guy? You seen The Witcher?
I'm not a TV. This is my worst segment because I rarely watch TV these days. So, no, I don't watch anything. I even rarely watch movies these days, unfortunately. So, I'm not going to be a contributor on this segment.
Gotcha. Okay.
Sorry,
Sean.
I have the one thing I've been trying to keep up with is there is a new animated My Adventures with Superman show that I've really enjoyed. It's a date and like almost re-envisioning the Clark getting to Metropolis and becoming a reporter. He's an intern, so is Lois and Jimmy and stuff, and it's like building into it, like, okay, we're seeing the first times he goes up against certain villains, and there is like an undercurrent of other things are going on that he doesn't know about villain wise, which is kind of cool. Been enjoying that. I haven't seen the latest episode, but that's part of why I got into the Action 800, the last episode.
Where is that on? Where do you watch that?
That one is on I think Cartoon Network is one place to watch it, but it's also on HBO Max.
Okay.
So it's like each week there'll be a new episode, I think on Fridays. But yeah, it's an anime looking Superman, but it didn't really take much time for me to get into it because the story really was fun. And then I did get to see an advanced screening with Jesse last weekend of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem.
I heard that's very good.
Nice.
And I'm actually going again tomorrow because my kids were ready to kill me knowing I was going to see it before they got to see it. So we're going tomorrow, and my wife and my cousin and his son are even going. So it's like a family thing. And I'm really looking forward to that because the first time, it's kind of like, I won't say it's exactly like Into the Spider-Verse, but it's just like animation wise, it's so different compared to everything we've done Turtles wise, like through their history, that I'm looking forward to like getting into it again and seeing if there's stuff that I pick out the second time viewing and things. But yeah, really fun movie, really good movie, definitely worth a look if you like the Turtles. So yeah,
cool. Ryan, you checked out The Witcher, or you got anything else that you've been watching?
I did check out The Witcher. I haven't finished it, but I don't know. Have you guys ever heard of the show on HBO Max called The Righteous Gemstones?
I have not.
I've heard of it, yes.
It's a really good show. It's really well written. It has an like an ensemble cast, like John Goodman's in it, Danny McBride, Adam Devine. It centers around like mega church stuff, but it's almost like a comedy drama.
Mhm.
It is so fucking out there, but it's a really good show. If you have HBO Max, I would say check it out.
Okay. Cool. Cool. The
I'll
other.
make two.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I'll make two recommendations. They're older shows. The first one is, I think it's on Hulu. I think it was an FX show called The Detour. It is freaking hilarious. It's I can't remember who the actors are in it. But it's a family, you know, typical white American family going from like New York or somewhere in New England. They're going on a road trip to Florida and it's everything goes wrong. Like the kids are like, hey, you know, help us, we've been kidnapped. So like truck drivers like start cordoning off the minivan and try to like take the kids from the parents because like they thought the kids were being serious. And you know, they have to explain everything, and it's so ridiculous. It gets more and more ridiculous as the series progresses, but it's really funny. And they stop at one of those like roadside attraction, like themed restaurants on the way to Florida. It's like a conquistador restaurant, so it's like all like socially unacceptable behavior, and like it's just so funny. And they all get like violently sick because they ate like the tacos or the shrimp or something, and it's just ridiculous. The Detour. And then I'm not finished with it yet.
What is that on? Do you know?
I think it was an FX show. It was on Hulu. I'm not sure if it still is.
Okay.
Let's see. The guy that plays the dad, he's kind of like a slightly more rugged looking of Andy from The Office.
Okay.
His name's Jason Jones. And where's the Natalie Z plays his wife. She was in the Justified series, the only place I know her from. It's really funny. And the other one is called Messiah on Netflix. A little more serious. It's interesting. I'm still working my way through it, but it's very interesting. Obviously, from the name of it, it's definitely got like a lot of religious themed stuff to it. But it's this guy shows up in Syria and starts delivering Jesus type messages, but it's modern day. And then all of a sudden, he's in Texas during a tornado, and it's interesting. I'm intrigued to see how it plays out.
Okay.
Kevin Dufresne brought up Guardians 3 is now streaming on Disney Plus as of this week, I think it was, or last week. So if you missed it in theaters, give it a shot. We talked about that already on the show. Really good movie, and good
so
series
good.
overall. The Guardians movies for me are like some of the best that Marvel's done.
Also,
I wasn't able to catch that one.
The Beast Wars Transformers is on, or Rise of the Beast or whatever the fuck it's called, is on Paramount Plus. So I started watching. I haven't finished it yet, but so far it's pretty damn good. So
it's a pretty good movie.
Yeah. I've enjoyed. I'm about halfway through. I've enjoyed it so far. So, and you missed earlier. I did talk about rewatching the Transformers cartoon movie as well, which is better than I remembered it being, but still, I felt like some of the deaths were cheap, but much better than I remembered it being.
They 100% are cheap. Like the writers even said that. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if you guys already covered that, but they even said in the documentary on the DVD, they're like, yeah, we were just given a directive to like kill off the old heroes so we could bring in new ones so people would buy new toys. And, you know, we didn't realize we were traumatizing an entire generation of children.
Not even just the heroes, but we mentioned Starscream too, like how they just basically just blast him and he just disintegrates, and that like
I freaking loved that. I love that part
because I love Starscream. So mostly because I met Starscream at Kmart. Like it was a guy in a Starscream costume, and so I thought I met Starscream in real life when I was a kid. Like thought it really was Starscream.
So did you go back to Kmart hoping you'd find him again after seeing the movie as a kid? Oh my God, you're still here.
No, but I think I've got a picture of me with it might actually be on the Shooting the Shelf intro. I don't know. I sent Jess some pictures. I'm not sure if that was in there or not, but I've got a picture of me at Kmart with Starscream. And I just remember at the time that I didn't realize that it was a guy in the costume. I thought it was the actual fucking robot. So dumb kid.
Well,
but, yeah.
Not the. Never mind.
Not a fucking robot. No, it's just a robot. It wasn't like new age robots that you can have sex with.
at least they'd look at you and go, you want to know why I'm more than meets the eye? And then all of a sudden the police are pulling him away from you. We've been looking for him over 10 states.
Oh, good stuff. All right. Anything else, guys? Otherwise, I think that might be a show.
I was just going to say, if anybody's into video games, Baldur's Gate 3 came out yesterday. And that game, it's a AAA title. It's a AAA title, and it's done very well. Larian Studios is a great video game studio. So definitely worth checking out.
Awesome. The only thing I'm playing right now
if you like
is
D&D,
phone.
It's an official D&D video game too, so licensed. So,
oh, cool.
If you like Dungeons and Dragons, it's definitely worth checking out.
I did see a post in the Cabal that said that you can alter your crotch dimensions on Baldur's Gate 3. So
yeah, so I mean that's optional, of course.
Screen.
I mean, Curtis is just going to spend the whole time clicking on that button, just like he was the Superman.
I think there's only 6 different genitals to choose from, so you can't spend too much time.
I don't think I could call out the 6 different genitals, but okay.
Yeah. Kirk just got a Woody knowing before he never met before.
Well, it's my understanding that some of the romance scenes can get a little not graphic in a pornographic way, but you get to see genitals in the romance scenes. Larian has they call it the panel from hell. They would give like previews or updates where they were at on the game, and their last one actually got them banned on a couple of platforms because one of the characters in the romance is a druid, and he gets excited and turns into a bear, and then he's like, "Oh, sorry, I'll change back." And the character that's with him is like, "No, I like it." And yeah, there was a few platforms that actually banned them after that. So, but of course that stuff's all optional. You can turn it off. You don't have to see any body parts you don't want to. So
yeah, okay.
What? I want to know who designed that game going. I have to look at a bear penis today. Let's just see how this works.
It's a foreign company.
I was thinking of something that happened on one of our Shooting the Shelf episodes, and I was trying to remember who the guest was, and I'm pretty sure it was you, Joe, that was talking about D&D and about it being like Satan worshipers or something, and you said. You said, "Well, it's not required. Like you can do it. like it's optional. Yeah, it's not requirement."
Now they know why they call him Ursa Major.
Yeah, you can play with the genitalia, but it's not a requirement.
Oh boy!
Well, I don't want to exclude anybody. Just because you worship the devil doesn't mean you can't play D&D. You don't have to worship the devil to play D&D.
Yeah, I mean, everybody that's listening, no matter which of the 6 genitalia you have, you're welcome to play.
Yeah. You ever play with a bear penis? It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
I have kids in my house, so there'll probably be black bars on my romance scenes. But I'm fine. It's an amazing game with all kinds of great content, but I'm totally not surprised that we ended up focusing on penises.
Yeah, that's really the only reason to play the game. That's per Joe Gonzalez,
Yeah.
everybody.
Right. So the synopsis for the game is that your character is captured by mind flayers in the beginning of the game. You guys know what mind flayers are, right? Look like the octopus
Nope.
heads with the
Explain as you would a child.
God, I don't know. My kids all know what mind flayers are, but they're like Lynn has that octopus head sculpt, you know,
Okay. Yeah.
with the tentacles. That's basically a mind flayer. They're like a psionic race of monsters.
Gotcha.
They have something called a tadpole that they insert into the eye of other humanoid races, and then it turns that yeah, it's a pretty graphic scene in the beginning. It's pretty awesome. But you get one of those inserted into your eye and then are able to escape. But for some reason, that thing is not turning you like it's supposed to into a mind flayer. So you're on a quest to try and find out why you're not turning into a mind flayer, and also get that thing out of your brain so that you're, you know, not turned into a monster later. And most people are focusing on the penises. So
nice. That when you said that reminded me of it, like you gave me cringy vibes, because it reminded me of Star Trek II Wrath of Khan, where they put the little like worm thing in the dude's ear, and it like to mind control him. Oh my god, that's so fucking gross.
Okay, so I recommend watch the intro cinematic. It's just the intro cinematic. It's actually fantastic. There's dragons and everything in it, but you get to see the mind flayer Illithid do it to another character first. So you see the thing on her cheek, and it climbs up and then into the eye, and then he walks over to your character, so it's a first person view, and you actually see this little thing with like a like a leech mouth, kind of. Yeah. Like scream and then crawl at your face. Yeah.
No.
It's pretty hardcore. I like it a lot, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's in the John Hurt way.
Yeah.
Okay. Sean should get that one.
Yeah, I got that one. Thank you, Coupling.
Well,
yeah, check it out. Watch the opening cinematic on YouTube. It's a good time.
I think that's a show, guys. Appreciate everybody joining.
Thanks for having me, guys. Always a good time.
Yeah, man.
On here.
It was a great time.
Nice we'll talk about Death and Return of Superman, which Jesse has put on his top priority list to read. So appreciate that. Yeah, check out Twisted Metal. Check out Superman on Max. Check out Detour, we think, on Hulu, and Messiah on Netflix. And if I missed anything else, you can check out the replay. We'll talk about it again. Mm-hmm. So, Joe, got anything coming up you want to promote? Anything you want to talk about?
Gosh, I wish. I've got several what I think are going to be killer customs planned for
cool.
Mythic and Cosmic, and unfortunately I'm gonna have very few days off this month, so they're tentatively scheduled for next month. If I can squeeze one in this month, I will, but most likely next month I'll have some what I think are going to be some good customs. So
can't wait.
Keep an eye open for that.
Yeah, if they try to overwork you, just let them know that you're a minor and that child labor laws are in effect. So, cool. Rygon, you got anything coming up? Anything you want to promote?
No. Well, Saturday Day Live is going to be on a hiatus for at least a couple weeks, but I am excited to go to my first PowerCon.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Yep.
Can't wait.
That'll be fun.
See you there.
That'll
Probably,
be fun.
hopefully.
So you guys did the one huge Sunday show with Walter on there, and then you just decided to take time off, or what's going on there?
Everybody's got a lot going on. I know
Summer vacations.
Jonathan, yeah, he had a party last weekend, and I had a cornhole /bago tournament to go to.
Nice.
so that didn't really work out. And PowerCon next weekend. This weekend, everybody's still busy, and then the following week after PowerCon, everyone's still busy. So it's just me.
All right. Well, hey, you're awesome too. So
Appreciate it.
look, any other photography that you have planned coming up, or anything? You've been doing some killer shots, over this past year. Anything you got that you're planning?
I'm trying to seeing Nate Strong and Trevor use the TV screens and the shots that they're getting. They're fucking amazing. I've been trying to do different things with the lighting. I'm actually trying to get a 89 Batman shot with the Batmobile. I just need to find the perfect background. I just got to mess around with the lighting, but I'm working on that. So it's kind of like trial and error till I figure it out.
Cool. All right. Jesse?
Sunday night, Curtis and I are hosting the one and only Skelevator of Toy Frenzy and other location fame from YouTube. So we've got that on Shooting the Shelf Sunday night. I will also be attending the PowerCon in Columbus next weekend. Let's see. I know Wolf King's getting ready to drop some more parts. I know that's probably more of a Curtis thing to say, but I'm excited about that. Oh, I'll say one more thing. Legions Con is coming up for those of you who are not aware. Tickets are going. There are still some left, but if you get a chance and you want to and can attend, make sure you buy your tickets in advance at legionscon.com.
Beauty. Sean?
It's a good chance it will sell out before the show hits.
That's true. Sean?
I know Matt, the Dooch and I are going to be doing a new Legends of Grayskull this coming week. So there's that. And then obviously OffWorld, and I guess we're figuring out how next week's going to work because of the reveal party. And basically in any free time I have right now, I am trying my best to get some artwork done in, my deadline being Legions Con. So we'll see how that all turns out with how everything in my life is crazy. But yeah.
Yeah. For the Legends of Grayskull that Sean was talking about, he does typically post for, any questions or comments and stuff in the Legend.e Facebook group. So be looking for that leading up to the show. Make sure if you want to participate and be part of the show to throw in any questions or comments there. Don't worry about doing any reviews for them on like iTunes or anything because they don't read those anyway. But
we did a special episode for you. You missed that, didn't you?
I watched 102 and 103. Was there something else in between, or
we did a actual like a Curtis episode special for you?
I didn't see that. I saw episode 102 and I saw episode 103, but I didn't.
It wasn't a numbered one. It was just here's an episode where we wanted to do the review, and we had another thing we were responding to as well. So
okay, I'll have to check that out. I did not catch that. I have been watching every show though.
Well, look at you.
I've actually watched more of that than I would say Podcasters of the Universe lately. You guys have taken over the Masters world. Yep. So
well, I mean, there might be another meme out there where it shows here's Steve and Jeremy, and then Wish here's me and Matt. But you know what?
You guys are just more consistent right now than Steve and Jeremy. They're not putting out a whole lot of content, but
it's funny. Matt actually admitted a week or two ago. He's like, we could have actually like lapped them if I didn't move. And I'm like, well, what do you want to do about it? I don't.
I keep trying to tell that guy.
I don't know.
His priorities of real world problems, his family, living situations are completely out of order.
We speaking of next week, we will be doing an after party. At Four Horsemen are doing their thing. They're gonna have a reveal special for this new Cosmic Wave. We're gonna plan on going live immediately after that. and doing an after party. Last time we had a couple guests on. We had David Williams and Trevor Williams. We had the Williams boys.
And Jeremy.
And Jeremy Gerard popped in. So we'll see if we can get. I know it's going to be PowerCon weekend. A lot of people are going to be doing that PowerCon thing. But we'll see if we can get some special guests to jump on and just kind of give us their thoughts on the cosmic wave and kind of go from there. So we'll be racking our brains this week to see who would be some good special guests to bring on. And then I saw on Instagram, Legions Con did a nice little write-up on me. I'm not sure if you guys saw that, but they did a little thing showing like some of my artwork and stuff and just saying that I'll be at Legions Con. And I thought that was really nice. So that is on the Legions Con Instagram page. So appreciate that.
Can I ask a question real quick, Curtis?
Sure.
So did your user handle before Art by Ackerman, was it Sit and Smash?
It was.
Can I get an origin story on that? Because that just seems like kind of an odd handle.
I think that might even be too off limits for this channel.
So my original World of Warcraft character was just Curtis backwards, which is Citric. And then when I made, obviously in World of Warcraft, you can't just play one character. You got to make a bunch of characters. Because my name was Citric on there, people just called me Cit. Like that was my nickname. So like anytime that we were in an event or whatever, they would just call me Cit. So then every character after that became Cit something. Sit and Destroy, Sit and Chaos, Sit and Smash was my tank. And that became my main character. And so when I started on Instagram, that was my handle, was just my World of Warcraft name. So
that was way more G-rated than I thought. Okay.
Yeah, no, that was it. And then I started doing stuff with my wife when it came to because really the only thing I post on Instagram is either photos or customs that I've worked on and stuff. And then I started doing stuff with my wife. She started doing soft goods and dios and stuff, and plans to come to Legions Con with me. So when Len did my logo to make stickers and stuff, instead of just making it for me, he wanted to do it based on the whole family. So that's why it's Art by Ackerman, not Art by Curtis or whatever, because it incorporates my wife in there as well. And that I changed my Instagram handle to that. So
right on.
But
right
on
well,
this episode, you see my name under there. It says Curtis the Eradicator. I was channeling the reign of Superman.
Because you're feeling that 90s vibe.
I was. I'm feeling the glaucoma glasses and the cape logo. So, all right. Well, check us out next Friday on the next OffWorld, which will be the after party. Should be a great time. I'm not sure who we're going to have there, but you can rest assured that we will be talking some Cosmic Legions and we'll be having tons of fun. So. Until then, we'll see you guys as we go off-world. See ya.